SailGP has landed in Sydney, Australia.
Oh, look at the speed!
We're set for big wins and epic competition.
Wow, close moment! Wow, it's tight in there. Wow, getting loose there!
With the overall standing so tight, every point matters when $2 million is on the line. Welcome to SailGP.
Waves crash underneath, sound like thunder speaking. Flying carbon machines, driven by the world's best, yes. Powered by nature, raw passion, all action. When it takes, racing on water, racing with impact. Give it all, everything, give it all, everything. We are racing. When it takes, we are SailGP.
This is event 8 of season 4 of SailGP, and after visits to North America, Europe, and the Middle East, we now head to the waters of the Southern Hemisphere and one of the most iconic settings. Known for spectacular views and fantastic racing conditions, this is Sydney Harbour. Welcome to day 1 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix. With just 5 stops left, securing a spot near the top of the leaderboard is critical if the 10 international teams have any design on being crowned the Season 4 champion. I'm Todd Harris, and I happen to be joined in commentary with former world champion Emily Nagel and Olympian Stevie Morrison. Here are the season standings after 7 events. This weekend's hosts, Australia, are currently top of the table with 56 points despite not yet winning an event. New Zealand, winners of the last 2 events, are second overall, but they are without driver Pete Burling this weekend. And then it gets really interesting with the USA, Rockwell, Denmark, Spain, and Emirates GBR all within 2 points of one another. Before we get to the first race of the day, let's take a closer look at those teams in the 4th to 8th spots. For them, it's make or break time.
Brace yourselves for heart-pounding action down under as we chart a course into the exhilarating second half of the SailGP season.
Wow, getting loose there!
4th to 8th place overall will be scrapping for the podium here in Sydney.
Oh my lord, the boat jumps out of the water!
Robertson's Canadian team have shown their ability in the breeze. A strong performance here could see a change in the pecking order.
Everyone's going to have forgotten how to sail in that kind of breeze, so it's going to be a bit messy, and yeah, we'll have our foot to the floor.
France's Quentin Delapierre exploded with confidence in Sydney last year.
And the win will go to the French as they make it 3 for 3 in Sydney.
However, by their own admission, they're not where they want to be this season.
Heavy wind conditions are coming. We love it. I know that what we put in place together is really strong for the future. So I just have to keep the serenity on board and the team, and it will pass in our favor.
It will be Giles Scott's first taste of the F50 in top-end conditions.
With the overall standings, we're in a really solid position in pouncing distance to that top 3. Sure, it's where every team wants to be, and we're certainly no different than that. And I think as a team, we've just got to pull together, try and upskill me as quickly as possible, and get those good results.
Meanwhile, Spain, the youngest team on the circuit, are having their best season yet, making 3 light wind event finals with a victory in LA.
We gained definitely confidence in the light stuff, and I think we will make gains in the stronger winds, but until we sail, we won't know.
Denmark too are having an incredible season and now get Nikolaj Sehested back in the driver's seat. They are in 4th place and joint on overall points with the United States.
Sydney is super important in terms of position for San Fran. It might not be make or break yet. There's still a lot of Grand Prix left, but it's definitely a time to sort of turn up the performance. I think we reached the point now as a team where it's hammer down from here on.
Today we are scheduled for 3 fleet races in Sydney Harbour, where the winner gets 10 points, last gets just 1. Sunday we'll see 2 more fleet races, after which only the top 3 teams on points will qualify for the event final. To get you ready for what awaits the teams out on the water, here's Stevie Morrison with his course preview.
Beautiful Sydney Harbour provides the racetrack, and the teams need to be behind the line as the clock counts to 0. It's then a sprint to mark 1. At each gate, the boats can turn left or right. The F50s need to sail at an angle to the wind to generate speed, so we see them crisscross the course, trying to find the optimum path. Genesis Island in the right-hand side of our screen provides a natural obstacle out there today. The wind's very variable in strength and direction, so it's a big day for the strategists and the wing trimmers. Snakes and ladders out there, finishing first, going to be a challenge.
Massive crowds have made their way to Genesis Island. We're lucky enough to have local knowledge. Olympic silver medalist Lisa Darmanin down on the water. Lisa, what are you seeing and what are you hearing?
Well, I'm seeing plenty of wind, Todd, and that's good news because we haven't seen much of it recently. Winds are averaging 30 kilometres per hour, but we are seeing anywhere from 20 to 37 kilometres per hour. So the topography of this land and also the clouds that we've got around here is making it super gusty and super shifty. So plenty to play for on this racetrack, finding more wind and a quicker path. Their 50s are running at the 24-metre all-purpose wing, and the breeze is expected to decrease, but we do have those high-speed foils in, so for less drag and more speed, it's going to be a great one.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa. More from you throughout the day as we get ready to hit 1 minute to go before the first race. And the entire fleet, all 10 now in the start box. Emily Nagel, if you're one of these teams, where would you like to be?
In clear space with a good run up to the line. We've already seen some of the teams hit speeds of 90 kilometers an hour, so give yourself some space, get up to speed and hit the ground running.
Well, and here we go, Todd. I mean, the teams are lining up. We can see top left-hand side of our screen, we got a gust of wind coming down the course, 35 seconds to go. The problem the teams have got, if you get a gust of wind, you're going to have 500 horsepower. If there's no wind, you're only going to be trying to start your boat with just 100 horsepower. So it's really hard to pick the start. The blue triangle, bottom of our start line, that's our optimum place to start. New Zealand and Spain are well positioned. France with a late run at things here. It's New Zealand and Spain well positioned, but it's all about hitting that line at top speed when the gun goes. Canada look for a gap late on. 7 here. Top of the line, Denmark. Middle of the line, New Zealand. It's all about acceleration as we turn towards the line. Great start, Spain. Great start, New Zealand. But who's first on the foils? It's going to be Australia, United States and New Zealand, and it's a sprint to Mark 1.
Keep it simple, all right?
Pressure building hard in 2. Pressing in this one, hard gust.
Do we still overlap?
And a little more tension in their voice in this one as we are off and racing. Race number 1 here at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix.
Really tight. I think United States have broken the overlap. What a start for Taylor Canfield and the United States crew. They lead at Mark 1. Australia second, New Zealand third, and it's so gusty. What a start from the US crew. How's the manoeuvres on board their boat now?
And going forward.
So it's Taylor Canfield and the Americans out in front. They'll make that turn now to gate number 2. Remember, this is just the first race of 3 with the Americans getting a great start. Denmark sits in second, and then it's the Aussies and the Kiwis 3 and 4.
Well, and New Zealand and Australia have had poor manoeuvres in the middle of the pack there. United States look well lined up for gate 2. Spain looking like they're maybe going to make a dive on the inside. Left turn keeps it simple. Canfield wants that, but will Spain be able to get inside? I don't think so. It's going to be first again for United States, chased by Tom Slingsby's Australian crew.
Ivy, help on the course.
55 target. 50.
Ooh, tight crossings there as they all make their way down to gate number 2. Making their way up the course now. It's the Americans still in the lead, Australia in second, Denmark currently in third.
New Zealand, the big losers on that downwind. There was a poor manoeuvre. They've dropped a few places. They're in the pack now, and interesting to see which way will the crews choose to go on Genesis Island as we head upwind. Top right-hand corner of our screen, we can see some dark patches of water. Should be good news for Spain. They're looking like they've got good wind, but New Zealand, wow, look at the angle difference to France. New Zealand is struggling in the pack as Denmark cut back across the course.
We're currently seeing the Spanish team with about 25 kilometers an hour of breeze on that left side of the course. The US team on the far right have slightly less, 22 kilometers an hour of pressure. But as Lisa mentioned, it's super gusty and shifty out there. So expect to see gusts of up to 10k an hour.
And look at this, Todd. Right now, Australia, they're foiling and they're sailing nearly directly up the ladder line. United States not foiling and they're sailing at a far worse angle. So Australia at the moment, they're going faster and they're sailing less distance. That's the perfect setup for Tom Slingsby.
And let's check in down on the water. Lisa Darmanin, you've got the local knowledge. Tell us how Shark Island or Genesis Island is going to come into play in this race this weekend.
Oh, it is so difficult to have Genesis Island right in the middle of the racetrack, but it does create a lot of opportunity because the wind has to funnel around it. So we're seeing a little bit of acceleration. So I really like where Australia is going right now, but the big thing that's tricky is it's shifty. So we're having, the wind's moving 20 degrees. So it's really about when Australia chooses to go back, but they're looking like they've got a really commanding lead here, and it's USA that's going to come head-to-head with Denmark as the next boat-on-boat situation.
And Stevie, with Genesis Island in the middle of the course, this course is just massive of what we've seen in the last two events in the Middle East.
Yeah, and there's opportunity. There will be gusts of wind on each side, and you've got to make your decision early. That's the problem with Genesis Island. What a fantastic view for the crowd. Right away, United States, as they come close to Denmark here. That's going to be interesting on the left-hand side of our screen. I imagine that's going to be tricky for Denmark. They had to keep clear there. I'm not sure if they did enough, but we'll surely hear from Craig Mitchell if they didn't.
Push the boundary, I think.
Voice of Taylor Canfield there. He's saying he wants to push right out to the boundary as we get close up under the shore here. The right-hand side of our screen's the shore. There's going to be less wind. We can see Australia, they're off the foils, doing just 26 kilometres an hour, while the United States, look at that, 44 kilometres an hour. They're on the foils, but it's about to get hard for the United States with one more manoeuvre to do.
Leg 3 of 7, race number 1 of 3 today. We've got 3 races for you. Australia out in front. They are the overall leaders after 7 events with 56 points. New Zealand sits in second place, but remember, their driver, Peter Burling, he is on leave right now, attending to the birth of his first child.
And look at that bottom of the screen there, Emily. Spain have come the other side of Shark Island at the moment. It looks like a gain on paper.
Yeah, they've definitely got a lot more space to themselves down that side. Now, they aren't foiling at the moment, 29 kilometers an hour, but there's so much congestion on that eastern side of the island, the top of the screen, that at least the Spanish have space to do their own thing.
First through gate number 3 are the Aussies. Spain looks like they are going to grab second. The USA currently in third. Remember, Spain and the USA had great starts, Stevie, but it is the Australians that have burst out to a huge lead right now in race number 1.
Oh, this is just a constant. I think the saying today, Todd, is there's plenty of golf left in this hole, because this race is not going to be over until it's over. Spain now with the right of way over Switzerland and United States, and they're up and foiling. Look at the speed of Diogo Fortin. He forces Switzerland to manoeuvre. United States must keep clear. Threading the needle, Taylor Canfield there. He's now going to watch out for the French. Oh, he's got to keep clear there. That's surely going to be a big question asked by Quentin Delapierre. It's really tight at the top of the race course here. United States turn right. They're going to have space. New Zealand, he's back in the race on board there. Looks to spin inside. And they think they like the wind towards the bottom of our screen. Last minute manoeuvre by Outteridge, who's in driving for New Zealand. And that's hard, coming on board a new crew, but he's sailing back. United States up and foiling. Got to be good news for New Zealand, turning back towards the breeze. As we can see now, Australia, top of our screen, big, big lead.
Well, look how your fortunes can change. The USA was in second place. They dropped back to 5th. Stevie, they go to the other side of Genesis Island, and look at the speeds.
Yeah, the US team, the Kiwis, the Danish, they're all doing over 60 kilometers an hour, while at the top of the screen, the teams up there are doing under. So big opportunity for these 3.
Everyone's still chasing the Australians, who are out in front here in race number 1 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney.
Let's watch this manoeuvre. Very tricky manoeuvre in these boats in this gusty, shifty conditions. Can they keep the hulls dry? So good to see the F-50s up and foiling, hey Todd, after a few events where they've seemed almost stuck in the water. A little bit messy on board the United States, but it's tidy enough to stay in the race. France, what a comeback by Delapierre. Struggling on the first downwind, but he's put the course together perfectly, sailing nearly straight down our ladder lines, minimising the distance really well. French are up to 3rd, chasing the Spanish.
And everyone is chasing Australia. Look at the lead. Look at the size. They have increased it over to 200 meters as Spain comes around the next gate. Then it'll be France who have moved up. They've always been thought of, Stevie, as high wind specialists. And this is a weekend they definitely need to excel because they currently sit 7th place overall.
Crucial event for Quentin Delapierre and his team. And I think what you'll see as the weekend goes on, especially when it's shifty like this, if you're in the lead, you get to have the first choice. You get to make your own decision. When you're back in the pack, you're a little bit compromised. So for the leaders, they should have an advantage because they can sail to where they see the wind and they're less likely to be compromised by the boats ahead.
And these conditions, I wouldn't necessarily say they are our strong wind conditions. Yes, the boats are up and foiling, but it's still quite marginal. With the lulls, they're back into that H1 mode, one hull down in the water. So it takes an all-rounder to do well today.
Just as you speak there, you can see off the left-hand side of our screen, the United States had fallen off the foils. Spain and France, they're in a real tussle here. And Nathan Outteridge, bottom of our screen on board New Zealand, he likes what he sees on this side of the course, turns the boat now, and it looks to me like he could have a good angle to take him straight back up the course, close to the fans on Genesis Island, with just a couple of legs to go, Todd.
And the gap has really closed as Spain and France are in a match race right now with Australia out in front. Look at the speeds of the Australians on top there. Over 50 kilometers an hour, and everyone else is just in their wake and eating their dust as the Aussies look to put a stranglehold here on race number 1.
But they aren't just sailing faster, they're sailing a much shorter distance as well. We can see their angle on screen. They're pointing directly up the course compared to the Spanish and French.
Boiler at the moment.
So good here in the comms. That's Kyle Langford. He's saying we're going fast enough to stay on the foils. Dark patch of water where they are now. Good chance to stay on the foils for the Australian boat here. They found good wind. Tom Slingsby, well, he lives just on the shoreline there, so he should know his way around. And at the moment, doing a brilliant job on board the boat. They stayed foiling through that manoeuvre. Great news for Australian fans, but it looks like there could be a few manoeuvres to do.
It's important to remember as well that this is one of the first times that they're on the small foils in many events, and the small foils make it much harder to maneuver as there's a lot less lifting surface.
It's the first time they're on any form of foil for a while, so for those flight controllers out there, it's a big day back, learning the job, relearning the job, and right now Spain, well, they're doing a great job on board that boat of keeping the boat flying, pushing hard. They're past the French here. New Zealand in the background. They're going fast. They've got themselves up in the fleet again, and it's light at the top. There'll be some nervous people on board that French boat right now.
So after gate number 5, it'll be downwind, and then they'll take a left-hand turn towards the finish line with the Aussies now with a lead of more than 200 meters here in the first race. On the bottom end, though, Stevie, you see Switzerland picking up a penalty. Germany and Emirates GBR really struggling.
Look how slow France are at the moment, Todd. They're 2 hulls in the water. That's so slow. New Zealand are coming at them, but the French have the right of way. New Zealand must keep clear, but they're dead in the water at the moment. What can Outteridge do to find a way round him here? He's got the boat fast, but he's going to have a few more manoeuvres to do, and look, he's dropped into no wind as well.
And remember, every time you pick up a position, you pick up a point, so it's 10 points to the winner, 9 all the way down to 1 for dead last, and right now it's Emirates GBR holding on to that last place position.
And the battle is still on between the Spanish, French and the Kiwis. So far, the French have had the best average speed this leg, but the Spanish are getting back up onto the foils here.
They probably want to do one more manoeuvre, though. I think left turn's going to make it easier to get down to the next mark. New Zealand turn. Denmark. Look at the speed on the Danish. They're back in the race. Spain on the inside. They have right of way here, but France are entitled to dive inside. And round the outside, here goes Nikolai Sehested. Back into SailGP. Nathan Outteridge is going to dive on the inside here. He does no right of way versus the French. Can Delapierre shut the door? No, he cannot. Nathan Outteridge sneaks through. What a move by the Kiwis.
And Nathan Outteridge goes full hocus pocus on the second to last leg. Meanwhile, it's the Australians who get around mark number 6, and they make their way for home on home waters on day number 1 here at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney. It will be Tom Slingsby and the Australians that open things up with a huge victory just outside of Genesis Island. Take a bow, Tom Slingsby. The Aussies take the win in race number 1.
Well, that was a pretty Pretty dominant display. They are the most experienced team in the fleet. Nothing short of what we'd expect as the fans on Genesis Island there. They're going to be loving that. But in the background, New Zealand, well, they're in third place. Nikolai Sejersted, what a sense of timing on board Rockwool Denmark to come back through. Found great wind to the right of Shark Island on the upwind leg, and that dark patch of water we can see Denmark in now. It's good news for them. France and Spain, can they hold off the late charging United States? I think they probably can. What a first race. It's going to be tense out there.
But this is the battle now, Stevie. We've seen this before, and we've seen it so many times on Sunday where it comes down to a point and even 2 points to get into that event final. And Denmark doing the best to limit their losses. And look at Nathan Outteridge on board New Zealand trying to close the gap. He's going to probably come up maybe a little bit short as Denmark looks to be holding on for second, and the Kiwis will take third.
Yeah, I think consistency is the key on a day like this, Todd. It's so we've seen in this race, we've seen New Zealand have been in third place, they've been in 9th place, they've been up and down the fleet. Rockwool Denmark were out the back of the pack on that first downwind. There's a lot of action. You've got to make the chances when you get them. As we see, look, top of screen, Great Britain, they're back in last place. Canada, they've seemed to have fallen off the foils. So there's a lot of the big hitting teams that we'd expect to be at the front of the fleet struggling in the first day back on the foils here in Sydney Harbour.
So top 3 is Australia, Denmark, New Zealand, Spain in 4th. And look at this,
Tight
at the last gate, here we go.
Switzerland are allowed inside there. They had the overlap. Seb Schneider just diving inside Eric Heil. What a move by the Swiss, and the Germans fly too high. Wow, big push late on by the Germans. They fall off the foils. That's going to be the Swiss comfortably ahead of them, but that was tight. Every point counts, as you said, and Seb Schneider, wow, there was no backing off the hammer into that one.
And it looks like problems at the back of the course. You see Canada dead in the water right now, both holes, as they have come to almost a complete stop. Meanwhile, it will be the Swiss edging out Germany for 7th place, so it's an extra point for them. The Germans will bring it home in 8th, and Emirates GBR just limping to the finish line, now getting speed. Look at this, over 70 kilometers an hour, Stevie. That speed they needed earlier in this race. Germany coming across after that close encounter with the Swiss on that last mark, so they claim 8th. As we said, Emirates GBR will finish in 9th, and problems for Phil Robertson and Canada. Steve, I got to wonder what is going on with Emirates GBR. I expected so much more from them at this race.
Well, I think there's a lot for Giles Scott to take in. He's coming in this driver position. I mean, he's 2-time Olympic gold medalist. We're not talking about any kind of mug, but it's a very different game than he's used to playing. He's used to playing a longer race course, slightly slower things. He's got some learning to do, but he'll do it.
So the Australians come through in nearly record time, gives them time to rehydrate, fuel up for the next race coming up in just a matter of times. The Aussies win the first race here at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix as they look to defend home waters.
So super tricky conditions for the start there in the wind shadow of Genesis Island, made for marginal foiling conditions. The Spanish team opted for the optimum point on the line, while the Aussies and Americans came into the line with speed. Now, that benefited the Americans really well. They were the first up on the foils and made it to Mark 1 first.
Well, and we saw that. It was in those details. I mean, the United States did a great job, but this one manoeuvre here, they fall off the foils, and look at the Australians. They execute a good manoeuvre, and this is just the racing in a nutshell. How do you minimise the manoeuvres like Australia are doing here? They're going faster, and they're sailing less distance, and we see it got really tight in the pack. Spain, well, they came from a big move to the right-hand side of Shark Island. They found that little bit more breeze, and it was really, really congested in the pack. It was how do you manage to avoid contact with other boats and keep your speed up, and nothing like that last turning gate. New Zealand dived on the inside. Denmark, well, he just said, I'm going to put the hammer down and just go right round the outside of the roundabout, and he did a fantastic job. Full speed, Nikolai Sejersted. What a sense of timing to make that comeback, and it's going to be like that all day. Can you find the gusts of wind and space when you need it most?
And taking a look at the numbers, we can see how Australia gave a masterclass in sailing around this course. Their average speed was the highest, 46.7 kilometers an hour, and also sailed the shortest distance, which we frequently saw with their angle to the next mark. 79% foiling time, higher than all the other teams as well.
Let's check in down on the water with Lisa Darmanin.
Well, congratulations, Tom. That was a great way to start at your home event.
Yeah, perfect way to start. No complaints. Jeez, it's tough. Oh, sorry, I got a lot of talk. Yeah, it was as good as it could have been. We sailed really well, good start, and you saw how it is. You're on and off the foils, really tough. There's light patches down to 5 knots and then gusts up to 18 knots. So perfect start. Hopefully we can keep it going.
As you said, it's so gusty. Is there a bit of a pattern emerging, or is it sort of you got to sail what you got at the time?
For sure, I don't know if there's a pattern emerging, but it seems like there's some trends when to cross one side of the island. Seems in that one, everyone sort of figured out that the left-hand side of the island was pretty good at the top, upwind, and then downwind. It seems pretty similar too. There's a good side and a bad side. So, yeah, I don't know. It's hard. You pick one mark that you want to go around, but then the race committee will move it for the next race. They'll see that we gain too much and they'll move it. So, yeah, you got to completely reset and refocus.
And with these starts, obviously you could be starting in 10 knots or 20 knots. How do you do that time on distance?
It's almost next to impossible to hit the line perfectly with speed, because you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you're going to get a gust on the line. You don't know if you're going to get a gust 20 seconds before and be no wind at the start. It's very tough.
Well, the crowd is cheering you on. Good luck for the next one.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So it's Australia, Denmark, and New Zealand, the top 3 after race number 1, with 2 more races to go here on day number 1 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, here in beautiful Sydney Harbour, as Genesis Island sits right in the middle of the course. Well, this season, Rockwell, Denmark is focused on being more consistent, but when driver Nikolai Sested took leave for the birth of his child to refocus their efforts, and now with business end of the season upon them, this Sydney event has been earmarked as a launching point for the Danes.
The Danish SailGP team have been campaigning since season 2 and are having their best season yet. They're currently in 4th, level on points with the United States.
And Rockwell, Denmark, they're going to be in first position at Mark 1.
Danes have been spotted a huge lead right off the gate.
They've been consistent with notable second place finishes in LA and Cadiz.
Great showing, consistent sailing across the board.
Nathan Outteridge stepped in as driver in Abu Dhabi while Nikolai was welcoming his first child.
Nathan Outteridge filling in for the great Dane. Nikolai Sehested steers the Danes into a top 5 position.
But now Nikolai is back and ready to take Denmark to the next level.
It's been a long break for me since last time with the team, but it's good to be back, and we feel pretty good right away. I think it's always a tough decision for professional athletes. At what time do you go into the family situation? We all grow up dedicating 100% to the sport, otherwise you wouldn't get to where we are. But there's also other things in life, and I'm sure that when you get to the age that I'm in, most sailors and athletes are thinking about what's coming next in life, and I think it's always a difficult choice, but you got to look ahead to a long future as well, with some great experiences with the family. It was a tricky event, Abu Dhabi, to watch from home. It was painful at times, but it was a tricky event with the breeze and the conditions, and it could have gone either way for our team. Unfortunately, it went the wrong way, and it was an expensive event in terms of points, but that's racing, and it would have been the same if I was there. That's just sport. Not spending too much time on Abu Dhabi, we're moving on and focusing on getting a good result here in Sydney now. We actually early this season we said that we're going to keep it very consistent and play it safe, and then when we get to Sydney, we said that's where we start pushing hard for the last bit of the season. So I think we're going to increase our risk a bit and start aiming for the top spots for the last bit of the season now, and also hopefully that can take us into the San Fran final.
Well, the 8th event in Season 4 of SailGP has long been circled as a pivotal stop that not only serves as one of the most beautiful backdrops, but also a key event for those looking to solidify their spot as the chase for a title passes through this portion of the Pacific Ocean. SailGP always looks forward to coming to the breathtaking scenery of Sydney Harbour. The iconic landmarks and epic sailing attracts big crowds. But before athletes race, they made the most of their time in Sydney, starting with a test by the Royal Australian Navy at the world-famous Bondi Beach. The Australian SailGP team went on to work with their sustainability partner, Prix, to help keep plain spotty beach clean and raise environmental awareness. The teams enjoyed a spot of wing foiling in perfect conditions, and it seemed for some, it certainly wasn't their first time. Well, an exciting way to start race number 1 of 3 here on day number 1 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix here in Sydney. Todd Harris, Lisa Darman, and Emily Nagel, and Stevie Morrison with you as we get ready for race number 2. Wow, I'll tell you what, Stevie, we have long missed the high-speed racing, and we got it, so we'll slow things down just a little bit more so you can appreciate what they're doing out there on the water.
Yeah, it's great to see something that needs slowing down, that is for sure. And I think just the detail that we're seeing on this camera is quite incredible there. The teamwork that's going on, the intricacies of it, fantastic angle. And I think for the crews out there, it's going to be so much about these small details as the go goes on. How do you find the wind? How do you optimize the performance of the boat? Because look, if you're foiling like Spain are here versus the Swiss falling off the foils, it's tens, hundreds of meters in seconds that it all comes around, and it's a full team effort. Grinders on the left-hand side of the screen there, they're working real hard out there, pulling that big wing sail in and out all day to try and get the best speed out of the boat.
So some beautiful shots there as we regroup. Much more of Season 4, Event 8 from Sydney after this.
Hey everyone, it's CJ, and I'm coming to you live from Sydney Harbour, where I am surrounded by some of Australia's most iconic destinations. Right behind me, right around the corner, we have the Sydney Opera House, as well as the Sydney Harbour Bridge and Luna Park. And right in front of me, we have Sharks Island, and it's packed full of spectators who are so excited to be watching the races and cheering on the Australian team. If it's any consolation, I think this venue in Australia is one of the best on the circuit, because there's not many destinations where you're right in the city and right in the heart of all of the amazing things that are around. Well, if there's anything that I learned from that last race, is that experience pays. We saw Australia take the win, and I think they hold 2 big advantages over the fleet. One, this team has way more hours on the F50 than any of the other boats in the fleet. They were here since Season 1, and they were fortunate enough to not have any crew changes from then on, and that makes a huge difference in terms of communication for those on board and just sailing the boat well. And having those hours on the boat, you do maneuvers easier, and it makes a huge difference. 2, a lot of the sailors on board, this is their hometown. They've probably spent thousands and thousands of days sailing right here in this harbor, and they've got used to these conditions. They know the pattern, they know the wave state, and I think they're going to be really playing that to their advantage today. So I'm looking forward to see what team can challenge Australia and maybe put a win on the board. It's super gusty out here today, so the boats are flying sometimes and sometimes they're off, but they're just about to head to the start line for their next race. So let's go watch.
Flying carbon machines driven by the world's best. Yes, powered by nature, powered by nature. We are SailGP.
Back in Sydney, Australia for event number 8 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix here in Sydney, beautiful Sydney Harbour. Genesis Island is the place to be to watch the world's best sailors compete here on Season 4 in one of the most iconic settings anywhere in the world.
The most interesting feature about this racecourse is having Genesis Island in the middle of it. This forces teams to make a choice of left or right around the island. With very shifty breeze coming off the land, it's hard to predict which side will pay. So far, the left side, top of the screen, has had better wind, but there's a lot less space to maneuver, which means that the bottom of the screen, right-hand side, could have an advantage. Strategists will have to keep an eye on the boats on the far side to see how they will converge at the top of the gate, as some teams will come in foiling and others in H1 mode, so not a lot of space to avoid each other in tight conditions.
So we'll see what happens in race number 2 as the Kiwis get themselves into position. And just a short time ago, Lisa Darmanin caught up with the new driver for this event, Nathan Outteridge and the Kiwis.
Well, Nathan, it's pretty tricky out here, but it looks like you remembered how to do it in a bit of breeze.
Yeah, we had our ups and downs in that race, but yeah, it's incredibly tricky. The breeze just dropped a little bit before that start, so all the warm-up was a little bit easier than the race, and yeah, we kind of got a little caught out in that bottom mark first time, but managed to chip away and get a good result.
And with these high-speed foils and those big lulls, does it make it difficult to do those foiling manoeuvres?
Oh, it certainly does. You really need to be in the puff to pull off the foiling tacks, and you know, there's a little island in the way of the course too, so often you don't want to like tack into a full build because then you're aiming at the island, so that's why you're seeing heaps of boats off the foils today. And yeah, we've just been sort of having a little bit of chat about how we manage that because yeah, half an hour ago it was like 5 knots windier and it was much easier, so yeah, it's a challenging day, but it's great to be back racing on Sydney Harbour.
And how are you going with the team? It's fitting in nicely?
Yeah, I think so. They're probably talking about me in the background at the moment, saying Pete wouldn't do it that way, but yeah, like a third in the first race is a good start. We just want to get some good results today, and yeah, as I said, it's so good to be back on the harbour. The southerlies are a challenging one to race in, and Blair's keeping me honest around the course, so it's good fun.
Good luck for the next one. Thanks, Nate.
No, thank you.
So Nathan Outteridge steps into some big shoes as Pete Burling is away to be there for the birth of his first child. And Kiwis look pretty good in that first race. They finished in a top 3 position, so that is good. Remember, it's all about accumulating the most points until we get to the last race, and that will be only the top 3 points getting teams that will race in the event final. All the teams get into position one more time. For race number 2, we check in down on the water in Lisa Darmanin.
Well, Todd, I've got some interesting news for you. Canada are having some technical issues. They're having problems with their wing. Not sure if it's electrical or hydraulics at the moment, but there is a 5-minute delay. The tech team is over there trying to fix it really quickly. But I can tell you what, it is still super gusty out here. We're seeing 20 to 40 kilometers per hour still. And to me, it looks like the clouds. There's lots of low-level clouds. When that comes in, like it has right now, there's a big increase in pressure. And as that passes through, there's a light spot on the other side. So it is changing quite rapidly out here. And I think there is opportunity to change the path around the racetrack. So I don't think one lap is going to be too similar. So the athletes are going to have to still stay super flexible today with their plans around this racetrack.
All right, thank you, Lisa. So, Stevie, not a massive delay, but who does this benefit? Obviously, Australia wants to go racing right now.
I think it benefits all the teams if you use the time wisely. I mean, they'll all be learning out there. They should be getting some practice runs. We can see the Germans have clearly done a practice start. They're trying to make sure they get that timing right. We saw how crucial it is. Despite the fact that it's quite up and down, there are more opportunities to overtake. If you can nail the basics, so hit the start line on time, execute good maneuvers, trying to keep the boat up on the foils. We heard Nathan Outteridge say it's not easy. You know, we think of just turning the boat as one of those basic maneuvers, but it's really hard when you're in amongst boats. We saw Germany there, practice lap, they're on their own. They could do it on their whole time. It's easy. When someone else is in front of you, it's a lot harder.
So just over 4 minutes to go until race number 2 gets underway here in beautiful Sydney Harbour. And when you think of SailGP, it's all about speed, it's all about precision, technology, and the numbers. And to give you a better understanding of how it all works, here's SailGP 101. At the end of the season, the winning team will lift the SailGP Season 4 Championship trophy and claim their share of $5 million. But how does it all work? Our scoring system awards points for each race that teams compete in across a race event. The top 3 teams with the most points will face off at the event final. One final race in order to determine who takes the event title and battle it out for maximum points towards the season standings. 10 to the winner, 9 for second, and 8 for third. 4th to 10th place are awarded season points based on their position from only the fleet races. These points are crucial for the season-long championship leaderboard. The championship leaderboard is recalculated after each event, and the 3 highest-ranked teams at the end of the season qualify for the winner-take-all grand final. So now you know, as we are almost set to go racing, under 3 minutes away for the start of race number 2. There you see Canada in the middle of your screen. Stevie, the good news is their support rib has pulled away, so they are on their own right now, and hopefully they'll be able to go racing here under 2:45.
Yeah, I mean, hugely technical boats, and maybe a little gremlin in the system, or maybe just overuse. Who knows what it was, but let's hope that Canadian boat's back up and going there. See the time to the start on board the race control vessel, and we can see gusty wind still.
2:20 now as everyone looks very calm, very settled, Emily. If you're Canada, you got to be a little bit nervous, hoping that the repairs they made are good. If you're New Zealand, you're Pete Burley and sitting at home watching this, you got to feel pretty good about what Nathan Outteridge is doing, putting them in a top 3 in race number 1.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan is a solid driver, and they've got a very, very consistent crew. So they know what they're doing out there. They've got experience in these slightly windier conditions as well. So you've got to be feeling good if you're the Kiwis. The Canadians haven't started to move back over to the start line yet, so a little nervous about whether they will make this start or not.
And unfortunate for the Canadians and their skipper Phil Robertson finishing in 10th place, so that's 1 point. And now, Stevie, 1:40 to go, so it looks like the racing will be on, and the Canadians are just in a dire straits right now. They have to get up and sailing if they have any chance.
Yeah, this is a bit of a disaster here. We're on board the bow of the British boat, as we can see Giles Scott. Well, he also needs to turn things around quickly. He's got a lot of learning to do. Huge experience alongside him. Yeah. Luke Parkinson, Ian Jensen, Hannah Mills, Nick Hutton. They've all won events in SailGP. They've all got that experience. Giles himself, double Olympic gold medalist. But they need a result very, very quickly here in these gusty conditions, and it's going to be pretty defined in the next 70 seconds. Can they hit the start line at speed?
And we've just heard that we are now delaying for another 2 minutes, so it's now 3 minutes, and that's going to give Canada, another 120 seconds, Stevie, to hopefully get everything sorted out and up and running.
And this is really going to mess with some of the pre-start plans. All of the teams have quite a solid routine of where they want to be in that final 2 minutes, and coming up to the practice start line is not normally where we see these boats at that time.
You can see there, left-hand side of the screen as we're looking at it. There was a tech crew on board the boat. They're working hard on the systems. There's so many little systems there. There's an electronic system that helps control all the fine details, the wing sail, the big wing that we use there. That's actually got a big hydraulic system. So the wing trimmer's got buttons to move the top of the wing and all those still areas.
Let's go back to the start of race number 1 and the highlights here. And man, it's just good to see wind again, Emily. They're up and racing, the entire fleet off the start.
Yeah, we're seeing plenty of speed on that first reach, and then that upwind leg is so tricky with the split of the island and making sure that they're staying up on the foils. Critically, that's where the USA lost the previous race. They had a brilliant first leg, but just couldn't quite manage their maneuvers.
One thing I'd say for sure is we've seen that Taylor Canfield, he can start so well, but it's ultimately about the finish, and that's where Nikolai Sehersted absolutely nailed the timing.
So race number 1 goes the way of the Australians. Denmark, New Zealand, the top 3. Spain and France round out the top 5 of the USA after that great start. They finished in 6th. Stevie, we've talked about this before. You can have one bad race in the first 5. You have 3 fleet races on day number 1, then 2 more tomorrow. You can have one bad. You really can't have 2.
No, and I think this is really bad news for the Canadian crew, unfortunately. It's going to make it so hard for them. It's going to be difficult times on that Canadian boat, but it's all about the fleet that's racing. We can see good wind coming down the course. Should be fast to the gun.
Under a minute to go before the start of race number 2. It is official, so it looks like Canada will not be able to get back into this one, so it'll be 9 international teams, all fighting for first place and 10 points. Remember, Australia won the first one, Denmark, New Zealand, the top 3, and Canada finishing in 10th place, so that really opens things up. And Stevie, you look at teams like Spain, France, and the USA who had great starts. This is the opportunity we have to show that they learned something from race 1.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to replicate in these changeable conditions. We can see it looks like decent wind wind coming down the course. New Zealand and Australia, they're closer up towards the top of the top of our screen. That's where the wind's coming from. I think in these gusty conditions, you're putting yourself in a safer position being up there. Nathan Outteridge on board New Zealand. He's trying to close the door on Australia, but will his timing? He looks a little early for me. He's going to struggle to be quick. Bottom of the line, Germany, but it's going to be Spain and Denmark here. How's the timing at the top of the line? Nathan Outteridge spins the boat down to the start. Clear there. Who's the first on the foils? Diego Botín looks like he's got his timing right, and Spain are up and foiling, but Eric Heil, beautiful, big gust of wind for Germany, and it's going to be a solid lead at Mark 1 for this young German crew.
First season for Germany, SailGP, and Eric Heil, the two-time Olympic bronze medalist, and it looks like he's going to get to Mark 1 first here in race number 2.
Good position. Spain are going to drive over the top. Outteridge is going to be on the outside of the wheel on New Zealand here. It's going to be a tricky first manoeuvre for the Kiwis. Nikolai Sehested on the inside. He's well set for that first turn. As aggressive spin down by New Zealand. How well can Germany perform this first manoeuvre? To keep that hull out of the water. Oh, it looks like a nice manoeuvre for Germany, and they're going to have the first pick at the bottom here. They'll look to set up for a left turn. Happy times on board that German boat, and it's tight in the pack. Look how tight it is as France and Switzerland try and cut the corner on New Zealand and Spain.
All three lead boats there doing 60 kilometers an hour of boat speed downwind.
Every boat wants to take the left turn on the inside here. Switzerland, they've got the right of way on New Zealand. What an aggressive manoeuvre by Schneider. He's got to get out of there. Everyone trying to get out into that left turn. Australia slides through on the inside. He's got to be careful. France can turn whenever they want to towards him. And all the boats now are trying to find the optimum angle for the upwind leg as Great Britain, 9th place. They turn away from the fleet. And is it a Hail Mary already this early in the race from Giles Scott?
So Germany gives up that top position to Denmark. Nikolai Sehested setting to the right side of your screen. Then it's Germany, Spain, and then Switzerland, your top 4.
I think interesting here, look, none of the boats are really progressing up the ladder lines. The winds are sailing on very different angles on the left of our screen to the right of our screen. New Zealand and Denmark clearly like what they see on the right-hand side of the racetrack. It's the opposite side to the Australians liked on the one before, but who's picked it right? Who finds more wind in the next minute will be crucial.
Yeah, currently we're seeing the German team with 25 kilometers an hour of wind, while the Danish have slightly less, although it does seem to be building on that side of the course now.
So leg 3 of 7 in race number 2 with another race still to come. Canada not in this one. It has mechanical issues. Let's go down on the water. Lisa, what are you seeing? And do you like the split from either of these teams as they try to negotiate Genesis Isla?
Well, I'm about 100 meters away from Denmark. They've just lost a lot of wind, but they're about to get into about 30 kilometers per hour of breeze. So they are going to hook into this beautifully. And Spain on the other side has really dropped off. So it will be really neck and neck here. It's so puffy, and the wind is actually really narrow. So the gusts are narrow. So you don't stay in them for a very long time. So you have to capitalize on it. I think it's going to be tight, but Germany should be just out in front.
All right, Stevie, building on what Lisa was just talking about, for definition purposes, what is the difference when she says puffy between when we hear shifty?
Puffy just means there's gusts of winds coming down. The strength is changing a lot, but what's shifty means the direction's changing. So we see right now Spain, look, they're nearly sailing straight up these ladder lines. They're progressing towards gate 3 really quickly. They've got a great shift in the wind. They're sailing less distance.
And the mode that the Danish are currently sailing, they're also having to sail this high, shorter distance, but for a different reason. If they try and bear away, sail a faster angle, they'll hit the rocks. So they've got to keep it nice and short distance here, but mostly out of a safety point of view.
Keeping it simple right now is Spain as they have the lead. They make an extra maneuver right there to opt to go to the other side of the course. And here comes Emirates GBR from 8th place now into 3rd. They're back in the game.
Hail Mary's come good for Giles Scott. He took the different split at the bottom of the course, found more wind. The brains trust of Hannah Mills and Giles Scott at the back of the British boat, while they've pulled it out of the bag when they needed it. They're going to turn right on their own, and they're back in the race.
Australia back into 4th place after winning the first race, and it is Giles Scott and Emirates GBR. They opt for the other side again. So staying away from friends and neighbors, and Giles Scott and the Brits now into 1st place.
And a good comeback by Australia, great comeback by Emirates Great Britain, showing us in the lead at the moment. Nathan Outteridge on board the New Zealand boat back in 7th, but he looks like he's on the inside of Switzerland. Eric Heil hanging on there, but we can see how quickly things will change. And this section of the race now, this is your opportunity to make your move. Can you make some crucial overtakes? Because we're already halfway through this race.
Leg 4 of 7, race number 2, with one more still to come here on day number 1 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix.
And I liked on that last shot where Spain were, we can see it's light winds on board Emirates Great Britain. They're struggling to foil. Background there, look at Spain fly across our screen. Rockwell Denmark fly across our screen in more wind. Tom Slingsby's found wind as well. There's just more wind by Australia.
And the look at the bottom left of the screen here shows us a summary from the previous leg and how GBR managed to close that gap. Now, they weren't the fastest boat round the course, 54 kilometers an hour average boat speed, but look at the distance sailed, 0.57 compared to 0.74 for Spain.
Stevie, it just shows how quickly this can change. To your point and what Lisa's been reporting down the water, Emirates GBR was in 1st place. They have now dropped back to 4th, and look at the lead that Spain has taken. And just moments ago, we were talking about how Spain has had great starts over these last 2 races, but can they hold on to it for all 7 legs?
Well, that's true, but we've seen them win events. This Spanish crew with space, I think, can do that. I think what's interesting is that left-hand side of the screen, the top of our screen, left-hand side of the course, on average, that's been the place to be. That's where Emirates Great Britain made their gain. So to turn right at the top was a surprising move, and they have lost out for that, but they're still in the match. 4th place is a good position. Delapierre on board France, he's found good wind on this downwind. He's back in the race, and it's really tight. This last upwind leg, there could be huge opportunities.
Heading up.
Calm voices on board across the fleet right now as France makes the turn and they head back upwind.
It's interesting here. We see Emirates Great Britain manoeuvre, Australia manoeuvre, and Australia look quite well lined up for some wind on this upwind leg as New Zealand, they're back in the pack. France, who's going to find the most breeze quickly here? I like where Tom Slingsby's positioned himself. He's not got the right of way. He will have to dip behind Spain, but he's sailing a great angle and he's sailing towards wind.
Nice, guys. Clear across.
Yeah, still H1. Now slow, all good.
Hey, you got 15 more of pressure this way. Hey, stand by. Building. Put down.
Here we go, Australia are going to move in that dark patch of water. Expect a foiling manoeuvre from the Australians here. They should be able to stick this, and if they do stick it, they're going to have the right of way when they come back together with Spain. It's game on for Slingsby on the Australians, but right now, Botín is going fast.
Diego Botín, the winners of Los Angeles and Spain, looking for a 2nd victory here in season number 4. They currently sit in 5th place overall, coming off a 2nd place finish in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, a tight moment here. Australia have the right of way. Nicole van Verden called the cross. She says they're comfy ahead. I think she might have judged it right. Great call there, confident call, but I think we're going to need to see 2 more manoeuvres for Australia and potentially 3 for Spain, unless they can just creep round the top of Shark Island to make gate 5.
Some brilliant sailing here by the Spanish and Australians in these marginal conditions. They're showing the best foiling percentage throughout this race. Australia so far on 92% fly time compared to Spain at almost 89. That bottom number there shows the height that they're foiling at, so we can see Spain have now just dropped off the foils, but previously they were flying around at a meter above the water.
All kinds of data being generated here at SailGP, and that data is shared across the board with the coaches who are on shore feeding information to their teams. And right now it is Spain that has the lead, Australia 2nd, Denmark in 3rd, and Stevie, these are 3 of the 4 teams that finished in the top 4 in race number 1. So consistency, to your point, as you said earlier, is certainly showing.
Yeah, consistency is key. I think to the left turn at the top's consistently been good. So expect Australia to follow Spain. They do. Rockwell Denmark are going to follow as well. And it's now advantage Botín, but Tom Slingsby, wow, he is absolutely breathing down the young Spanish crew's neck. We saw a bit of beef at the last event with Tom Slingsby calling the youngsters out, and Tom's back with a bang here on Sydney Harbour, and he's going to want to make a passing move if he can on this downwind leg. But yeah, Nikolai Seerstedt, calm movements, and in the pack, Eric Heil on board Germany, he has the right of way, but Quentin Delapierre's got the inside. Can he sling that French boat inside the Germans? Oh, it's tight, no room in there for Germany. Germany must keep clear. Germany must keep clear. Whoa, the Germans missed the mark. Oh, and this could be disaster for the German crew. Can they keep it upright? Just. Oh, indecision by Eric Heil there. Shut the door by Delapierre. Dramatic moments, and the Germans are going to spin back through the gate. Huge loss for the German crew now.
So as that drama unfolds, it is still Spain and Australia in neck-and-neck battle here as we come up on the final mark. It'll be a left-hand turn and then a sprint to the finish line. It is Spain that has the lead, but the Aussies about 20-30 meters right behind.
That all got a bit sporty at the top there. Great work by Diego Bortin, and they're going to sail across the front of the fans on Shark Island. It should be a victory here. Seerstedt consistent with the Danish. Delapierre up to 4th, and Outteridge hanging on in 5th, but what a race by the young Spanish crew.
And as they come to the line in race number 2, it is Spain that takes the victory. Australia holds on for 2nd. Denmark will claim 3rd.
Oh, it's a bit of action there, Tom.
I'll tell you what, but the moment of the race on the penultimate gate, Stevie, where everything seemed to go wrong for Germany, they came in hot. Quentin Delapierre made it really difficult for him, and we'll see how that all shakes down.
Oh, and Switzerland, top of our screen there, they fall off the foils in a straight line. Big error by the young Swiss crew, and now can they re-accelerate and hold off the late charging British? They've dropped back from 2nd all the way back to 7th, but it looks like Great Britain might sneak. It's another big moment on board the Swiss boat. Wow, Nicolas Rollet on board there, flight controller. It's a first day really for him flying this F50, and he's struggling in these gusty conditions. There, Emirates Great Britain, Luke Parkinson, one of the most experienced flight controllers, and big move back through the fleet, as we can see the younger crew struggling a little bit here in these gusty conditions.
Take a deep breath as Emirates GBR at one time was in 1st place. They will finish in 6th. What a race here in Sydney. So Switzerland looking to hold on for 7th, but is it done as the Germans come flying in? Germany looking to pick up one more point. They're just going to run out of a little bit of Pacific Ocean here, and it will be Switzerland that holds on just for 7th place. The Germans take 8th, but Stevie, I got to think Eric Heil and company are happy to get out of that one unscathed.
Oh, I think the Eric Heil will be breathing fairly deeply there, and I mean, there's some positives in that race for the German crew, but there's a little bit of indecision at the top there. We're going to get a replay of it here. Now, on the right of way, but there's no room. France are entitled to dive inside there. Stuart Biffle, look at that, calling hard on Eric Heil. He's just not allowed to dive inside. He needed to turn right early as France were coming in, open the room for France and follow them round. Got a little greedy. Things are happening very quick there. Wow, I mean, I think we're glad to see no carbon floating around there. Now, you see on the inside, France have the right of way. They're not entitled to go inside there on board the German boat. Eric Heil should have turned right and spun up and made a little more space for France, but as soon as he decided to try and dive inside, he compromised himself massively. And well, fortunately, this German boat, I don't know that it can tip over a lot further without tipping all the way over. They've just about stayed dry, thankfully.
Well, a positive takeaway is no contact made and no harm done.
And looking back at the start, the Kiwis were early, opening up the door for the Spanish team to hit the line with pace. Meanwhile, the Germans at the bottom of the screen had so much room to maneuver, and so they had one of their best starts of the season, making it to Mark 1 in the lead.
And sometimes when you're at the back, you have the fleet make the decision for you. Emirates Great Britain, well, they were at the back of the pack. They chose to turn right. No point following when you're already at the back of the pack. And in these shifty conditions, we can see they went from 9th to 3rd. They found that space. They used it really well. But they'd gained from the top left-hand side of our screen. They turned right. So they sailed to the side of the course that had been struggling before. And, well, fell off the foils, sailed into less wind. And what had been a big gain turned into a big loss. loss again. And that's the story of the race. A lot of tight moments, and you've got to make quick decisions in those tight moments. Eric Heil here, wow. He got the blinkers on, slightly rabbit in the headlights as he came into that mark there, but thankfully no harm done. Some good racing, plenty more to come out here on the water, no doubt about that, but its consistency counts. Bottin's been consistent, but Slingsby's the star of the show so far.
Well, consistency is certainly king in SailGP, and it was the case. Once again, Australia going 1 and 2. They lead the way with 19 points. Spain, though, bouncing back nicely after that fourth. They sit in second, tied with Rockwell, Denmark. And there you see New Zealand and France in the hunt for the rest of the field. They got to get up and go and get some points quickly in this last race. Let's check in down on the water. Lisa Darmanin with our winners.
Well, congratulations, Diego. It was so shifty, but it seems like you are sailing really well today.
Yeah, I mean, we were expecting more reads. At the end, it's like this, but for us, it's full on. It's super hard conditions to sail these boats, and yeah, happy with how we are going now, but we still have another good race, more race to go.
And is it fun to be able to play the shifts and play the game while you're foiling around at 50 kilometers per hour?
I mean, for us, as I always say, we are changing stuff all the time to learn to try to catch up with the top guys, and these conditions make it even harder for us. So yeah, it's quite hectic on board now for us, but yeah, getting on with it.
Well, it's all on now. You guys are changing the tube. You're going for a bit more power?
Yeah. The forecast said that the wind was dropping throughout the race day. It's dropping, and we go for a bigger jib so we can foil a bit more.
We'll leave you to it. Thanks, Diego.
Thank you very much.
And a smile on the face of Diego Bottin as Spain wins race number 2 to go with their 4th place with race number 1. Wow, great action out on the water. Once again, Stevie, super slow-mo captures it all. And how about this shot?
Yeah, I mean, what a start it was, and the German boat did so well. The positioning was perfect. It was about getting up on the foils, and you can just see here, look at those rudders on board the Spanish boat there, generating that extra power with the differential in the angle between them. Tom Slingsby, well, he's enjoyed the view of the racing so far, as have we, to see the F50s up and foiling on Sydney Harbour.
Absolute thing of beauty in race number 2. Well, each member of the crew of a foiling F50 has a particular job to execute during a SailGP race. However, this weekend, the role of wing trimmer takes center stage as the league, which is powered by nature, gets a full dose of what Mother Nature is capable of providing here in beautiful Sydney Harbour. Season 4, Event 8, the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix.
The wing trimmers are going to have it all on in Sydney. It's been a while since they've sailed in strong winds, and it's going to be fascinating to see who has the pace come this weekend.
Basically a bit overpowered. We'll have more energy than we can deal with, so we're always trying to make the sails flatter to less power, less drive, which is slightly different to what we've had all season.
The windier it gets, the harder it gets for everyone.
Because things are happening quicker, you can find yourself in a bad situation a bit faster.
The wing trimmer is the guy making sure the boat is going as fast as possible.
The F50 has 3 different sizes of wing. It's the 18, the 24 and the 29. And you'll use the bigger wing in the lighter wind and the smaller wing in the heavy.
We can set the wing to some optimum settings, and then it's literally in and out. You know, as the wing goes out, you lose power, and as it comes in, you gain power.
Trim it on, coming down, Eric.
And as wing trimmers on the F50, because we're foiling, we're actually controlling the heel of the boats.
In the lighter winds, it's easier to go head out and look around and look at the wind and the other boats, but when it's windy, it's just better to focus on speed.
We have a lot of instrumentation on board, which is giving us targets for almost every single thing that we can adjust on board. And to be honest with Team Australia, we don't actually use those targets. We do everything on feel. We think that our feeling is better and more refined than the targets that are produced and given to us by SailGP.
Okay, let's get a foiling, guys.
We're comfortable when it's windy, and we like it to be on the edge. You know, boats kind of risk of capsizing and losing control, because we feel like we can push the boat to the limit more than particularly the newer teams and the younger teams.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating next few days within our team, but it's going to be even more fascinating watching teams like the Americans who haven't done a huge amount in this stuff, and to see whether their humbleness comes out a little bit more.
So we'll see what kind of humble pie Mother Nature serves up to the wing trimmers and the rest of the crew as they get ready for the third and final race here on day number 1 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix in Sydney, beautiful Sydney Harbour. 2 races down, 1 race still to go down under.
Hey everyone, I'm back, and what an incredible second race that was. The Spanish, the young guns, they took that win from Australia with a really nice start and some good strategy all the way throughout the race. I think this to see, especially after he said that he thinks the young right on their home turf. Now, what on the water is that the breeze size so that they could spend more time on their foils and flying. So all of the teams are currently changing their jibs right now to acclimate for this lighter pressure. On that last race, I saw the Aussies and the Spanish. They did something I thought was really good. They took that bottom right.
Speaking, flying carbon machines driven by the world's best. Yes, powered by nature, powered by nature. We are SailGP.
All eyes turning to the water now as we are just moments away from the third and final race of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix here in beautiful Sydney Harbour as the fans down under enjoy a Saturday afternoon where the best sailors in the world have come to the Southern Hemisphere. Yesterday, SailGP's Impact League announced its winner for the focus area Accelerated Inclusion, using sport to increase awareness of diversity and equity.
So SailGP has what's called the Impact League, where they're measuring performance of the teams for areas related to environmental and social impact. The one that I'm involved in is called Accelerating Inclusion, as really powerful and special for me personally.
When we saw all the topics ahead of the season, we really think that this one was for us, and we worked really hard. Yeah, so at Cadiz we organized one sport race.
10 SailGP sailors, together with 10 parasailers, sailed on RS boats and having a blast of a competition, I would say, so that was really good.
One Sport Race was a fantastic initiative. My mum's an occupational therapist, and I grew up kind of doing or participating in a lot of local sailing projects, and the One Sport was kind of something for me that was really quite fun to do from my side, and I think it really kind of gave us the chance to compete on an equal footing.
For sure it's important to teach to the league, but also to the wider sailing community that everything is possible.
We want everybody to have equal opportunities, whether it's in sports or other parts of the society.
But what they've designed in terms of how they're planning to engage communities with disability to participate in sailing, it really steps out how they will for the long term, and that to me was very compelling. But the Impact League is just fantastic, and it gives a place where we can recognize the team's really best efforts to do both high performing, but also be good in the world.
So with Switzerland taking the win in the accelerating inclusion focus area with a perfect score, this puts them 25 points ahead of Australia on the overall impact leaderboard. The Aussies, alongside their partner Parlay for the Oceans, have been sharing the sport of sailing with local communities through their educational program and hold on to second overall. And with a second place finish in the accelerating inclusion focus area, Rockwool Denmark are catapulted up the leaderboard from 8th place to 3rd overall with the implementation of their ocean science education program in Toronto. Now, before the start of the final race today, let's check in with Lisa on the water.
Well, Emily, it is looking pretty much the same. The wind has died off, and as I was talking to Diego before, they've got the bigger jib for a little bit more power, which hopefully will help them. We've got around 22 kilometres per hour on average, but as we know, it's gusty out here and anything can happen. The other thing is where the start box is, so where everyone's lining up. That's probably the lightest place of this racetrack. It's hiding behind Point Piper, a very nice place to live, but not so good for the wind. So it does make it tricky for them to set up. This is why I think we're going to see them set up a little bit further down the harbour. That's where Australia and New Zealand got caught up last time. So it'd be interesting to see if the teams are learning and if they can make their way around this racetrack just as well as they did last time.
Lisa, before we let you go with under 90 seconds to go, do you see this race having enough wind that we can see some overtaking still in the latter legs?
Definitely, I think it's all to play for out here. When it's gusty, when it's shifty, it's not the survival conditions we were expecting. It's all about playing the tactical game, and nobody's safe out here. If you pick the wrong shift or you stay out of the pressure, you're going to go from 1st to 6th or 7th.
All right, thank you very much, Lisa, as we get ready for race number 3, 1 minute away.
I think those new to SailGP as well. Of course, the big wing sail, and Lisa talked about the jib. That's the small flappy sail at the front of the boat there. That's effectively the engine on these F50s. Bigger the sail you put on, the bigger the engine you've got. So we've just tried to give the boats a slightly bigger engine, hopefully get a bit more speed out of them as the race progresses.
Well, you will notice, though, it's only 9 teams in the start box right now. Canada's still unable to go because of mechanical issues. But what an iconic backdrop with the Sydney Opera House in the background now. Stevie, 30 seconds to go until the start of the 3rd and final race today.
And there we have it, the pole position, the blue triangle coming off the start line there. That's the optimum place to start to give you the fastest angle to Mark 1. But the more important thing is hitting the line at full speed. New Zealand are out the back of the pack here. Spain look well lined up. Denmark look well lined up. And Germany again. France are diving in, but where's the gap, Quentin? I don't see where you're going. It's all going to be a little bit too late for the French, but the French are foiling. What timing by the French. Germany perfect to the bottom of the line again. Eric Heil, what a start at the bottom of the line. He brushed off the incident in the last race again. New Zealand, Nathan Outteridge spritz the fleet in 2. He comes through second. Brilliant from Germany, brilliant from New Zealand and Delapierre. I don't know how he found a gap through there, but he did.
Okay, coming down
at mark number 1, once again, it is Germany that will take the whole shot. And the rest of the field, Mikey, getting themselves into position. How about France and the Australians and the New Zealanders?
What a start. 2 in a row for Eric Heil. He certainly brushed off the incident of that final gate on the German boat, regained focus, done a brilliant job here. But France, they've been consistent today. But what they'd give for a race win in this final race, as we see all the boats again, look like they're setting up for a left turn at gate 2.
Okay. Coming up
So at gate number 2, it's Australia in the back of the pack now in 7th, so they've got work to do. But as Lisa reported, there are certainly spots and places with the conditions that we have on hand to make passing maneuvers. Can Germany hold on to this spot and get a top 3 finish? And France goes to the inside, so Quentin Delapierre is not done being aggressive out on the water.
Oh, that was an aggressive move there. Dived inside. Eric Heil on board the German boat. He spins it away here, as we see now. New Zealand, well, he got dived on the inside of, but they stretch away, and we can see Germany, they're sailing back towards that darker wind to the left-hand side of Shark Island, Genesis Island, as it's rebranded for this event. So I think that's got to be good news for the Germans' crew. Bigger races, bigger rigs out here, big rigs win big races, and Germany, they're leading the fleet away at the moment.
An interesting choice by Germany there to lead the tack back. Previously, we've seen the race leaders take it a little bit further up the course and tack across where this lighthouse is there. So be interesting to see where they come out of this.
Leg 3 of 7 in the final race of the day. Stevie, let's go back to the start once again. And France, Quentin Delapierre, maybe feeling a little bit desperate, needing some points. He took some big chances in that start box to get himself into position, and this time it worked out for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you come into that thing with speed, you've got maneuverability, and he used that really well. But right now, Nathan Outteridge has absolutely nailed his line up the course here, nearly sailing straight up the middle of the course here. As we go back to that start, we're on board the French boat here, and we can see there Amélie Rieu dives in to have a look. You can see there's not a lot of gap in front of her at the moment, but the French boat gets up and foiling, and as soon as you're on the foil, you can maneuver the boat really quickly. They dive through the gap. Suddenly Australia have to keep out of their way, and it was a little bit like Moses parting the Red Sea there, Quentin Delapierre. He found the gap, he threaded the needle, and it turned out well for him. As we come back to the race course now, and we can see it's Outteridge, the Wind Whisperer. He's found his way up this course on board the New Zealand boat, and he's looking like he should be leading here. What'll be interesting, what does he do at the top of the course? Historically, a left turn at the top has been the percentage play. What does Outteridge call?
So Nathan Outteridge, one of the sailing greats, filling in for New Zealand, and Pete Burling, who's away for the birth of his child. Is New Zealand in front, Germany sitting in second. They've yielded that lead. France now aggressively moving now into third place overall, with Denmark in fourth. The Australians now up to fifth.
Nathan chooses to turn right. He obviously heard me saying turn left. He's split away there. He's found wind. He should be looking for a darker patch on the water. He's got a great angle. The wind's rotated to the right, so that does favour the right turn in this instant here, and it's a big lead for Outteridge. As we see Delapierre, he looks to turn left. Rottwell Denmark on the inside. They're going to need to spin in quickly. There they go. They should be able to make the turn. They're going to turn left, but they're a long way behind New Zealand, and it's going to be interesting to see what plays out as we head down the course.
Let me ask you this, Stevie. Is that what Denmark and Nikolai Sehested wanted to do, or did Quentin Delapierre force them because of the position he was in?
I think they had the opportunity to go below France, but I think he probably felt he was going to shut the door on boats behind by turning in there. So again, percentage play. Historically, the way Australia, Denmark and France are going today has been the way to make a gain. Now, maybe New Zealand has seen something we haven't. It looks pretty good. They had a great angle out of that mark.
Now, the Danish and French having that little match race as well opened up heaps of opportunity for the German team. They were able to stay on the foils at that top gate, and they have continued to separate that gap between the two boats.
Yeah, well, we can see the lead that Nathan's taken here. Nathan and the New Zealand crew, they've sailed some good angles down here. They've got to the gate with a big gain. Now we can see the wind has stayed shifted to the right-hand side of our screen. That means that Denmark and France are nearly sailing straight down the course, but sailing fastest at the moment, it's Eric Heil on board Germany, and speed's the king right now as Germany look like they're going to hold on to second.
Gate number 4, it is New Zealand, the center of your screen. They have the first place position right now. Germany, who got the whole shot, the best start, sit in second place. A nice drag race between Denmark and France side by side. It'll be interesting, Stevie, see how Denmark forces this one and Quentin Delapierre yields the position.
Yeah, Denmark just far enough ahead. France needed to be overlapped on the inside to have the right of way. Delapierre didn't think he'd get there, so let's minimise the loss, open up the gap, and they're going to look to follow, but expect manoeuvres from the boats behind as Tom Slingsby, here he comes.
And Slingsby make up the distance. They currently sit first place overall, not only in the season, but in the standings after 2 races. And 5th place for them, Stevie, would still be a win. Let's talk about Nathan Outteridge, though, way out in front. Remember, he's filling in for Pete Burling, and I was curious to see how well he would mesh into that team. He knows these guys oh so well.
Well, looking at the numbers from that previous leg, leg 4, well, we can see that he's doing just fine. He is in a league of his own, 70.8 average speed compared to the Germans, the second fastest team, at 66.6, and only sailing marginally more distance.
Yeah, and he's sailing bravely. I mean, look, we can see Genesis Island there, and traditionally they've all gone to the left. Now the wind has rotated right. Nathan's trying to minimise distance. He's going to be on his own on this side of Genesis Island. He's going to hope he's seen the wind right. But yeah, not a bad understudy for Peter Burling at the moment. He's filling in pretty well, and they had no practice yesterday, so he's very much learning on the job out here, although I'm not sure how you 2 times grand finalist, and he's been runner-up in this SailGP twice, so I'd hardly call him a beginner, but they're off the foils at the moment. Top of screen, Denmark are foiling. Has Outteridge found enough wind to get him to gate 5, and then down to the finish in time? He's losing distance at the moment.
Denmark and France, though, locked up in a match race classic right here as they hold on to top 3 positions. This is leg 5 of 7, so they'll make their way around gate number 5, come halfway down the course, and then a left-hand sprint to the finish line, and that'll wrap up the racing for today. Australia has been the class so far, Stevie, but right now in 5th place. Tom Slingsby will not be happy with that, but they should be in a top 3 position at the end of day 1.
Yeah, consistency's the king. I think Tom will be happy enough. You know it's that kind of day. Nathan's going to get across in front here on board New Zealand. Nikolai Sehested, he's sailed absolutely brilliantly today. They've been doing some good overtakes, plenty of room for improvement on the starting. But yeah, look at that. He looks like he should be second behind Nathan up at gate 5. What are France going to do? Choose to follow Nathan and Sehested, keeping it safe on board the French boat.
The Danish have been one of the most consistent teams out on the water today, and if they hold this position to the finish, this will put them in the lead.
The bow though there, Emily. Have they filled the boat with water? Can they keep it foiling? I think they can. That was nearly a big mistake by the Danish. Misjudged that turn away from the wind, plugged the bow underwater, but they've kept it going. They're slower than France at the moment though.
Australia picking up another position as they've moved ahead of Germany, who have dropped back to 5th place in a tight crossing with the Swiss, who they come behind them. So now the race is on. Can anyone close the gap to Nathan Outteridge and the Kiwis as they make their way to the last mark number 6, and there you see the finish line. I think they're going to run out of time and distance, but Denmark now have put themselves into 2nd place with France in 3rd, and Tom Slingsby's not done just yet.
I think what we're seeing today, Todd, is how much experience counts. I mean, it's just those more experienced crews, more polished crews. Okay, Nathan's a newcomer to this team, but he's one of the all-time greats in the SailGP League, stepping back in with one of the all-time great crews. So they've gelled well, and New Zealand look like they're going to definitely take the win here in race 3.
And as we come to the finish line for the 3rd and final race of the day, it's Nathan Outteridge and the Kiwis that take the win. Denmark holding off the French, and it looks like they will hold on for 2nd. And look how fast Tom Slingsby's coming in with his speed over 50 kilometers an hour. Does he have the time and distance to pick up another spot? He would love to get past Quentin Delapierre as the Danes take 2nd.
Well, he's got nearly twice the speed, and he's got twice the distance to sail, so this should be tight. Delapierre does have the pole position. I think he's going to shut the door okay. Nice job by the French crew.
Australia will hold on to 4th place, with the Germans taking 5th and the Swiss in 6th. Wow, so for Germany, Stevie, let's focus on them. Great starts, 2 races in a row. They finish in the top 5. There's something they got to take away with 2 more fleet races coming tomorrow.
I think they look like a very talented, very new crew.
Yep.
There's a lot of good points, a lot of mistakes, so they've got plenty to work on. I think they'll overall be happy with the day. I think for this great British crew, Giles Scott coming home in 7th place, I think he's going to be feeling a little bit disappointed, maybe a little bit shaken up by the day. It's just not quite come together. So hard coming in on a shifty, variable day like this, but I think with the crew you've got in front of you in Luke Parkinson, Ian Jensen, you'd be hoping for more.
Spain will go 8th. USA will finish in 9th, with Canada not starting. They'll finish in 10th. And so for the first time in the history of SailGP, we go on board New Zealand and their driver, Nathan Outteridge. Nathan, congratulations and welcome to the show. You got a late call to start up. You look like you know what you're doing out there. Give us an idea of what the conditions are like and how you're meshing with that crew.
Yeah, late call-up's always good. I've sat a lot with these guys. It's been a pleasure to race today on Sydney Harbour. It's been quite shifty. It took us a while to get fired up in those first couple, but you know, very happy to take that win there.
Nathan, someone once said to me, you're only as good as your last race, so you're going to be ending the day feeling pretty good out there. What are the key learnings you've had from today, and what's going to be crucial tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow's conditions will probably be quite different. It'll be probably quite east and a little bit lighter. But yeah, lots learnt today. It's good to be out here racing. You know, those first couple of starts, we had okay starts, but got caught having some pretty bad bottom mark exits. So it was nice to get a really clean bottom mark exit in that race and just link a couple of shifts together. And it's amazing on the high-speed boards how fast they can go when you're in pressure, but how slow they are when you're not foiling. So yeah, it's a fantastic day, Sydney Harbour.
where else would you want to be, mate?
Hey, Nathan, thanks so much for your time, and good luck to you and the team tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.
Well, there we were. Rolex best time start of the day. Spain, 0.8 of a second behind the gun. And I think in these shifty conditions, you're not going to see the absolute bang of the gun, but it was often converting it that was the consistency that was the key to converting those maneuvers. And well, the new crews just didn't have that consistency. The old experienced ones, Denmark, Australia, New Zealand, they stuck the maneuvers, they got the results. They gave the crowd what they wanted.
Fleet race number 2, and once again, after Australia gets the win, they stay consistent, Stevie. They finish in the top 2, but this time Spain would get the win in race number 2, so a little bit of topsy-turvy back-and-forth battle, and Diego Botín showing himself very well.
Showed himself to be very good in the shifty conditions. He optimized the maneuvers and just sailed the boat fast and sailed a shorter distance, but we saw it got tight. Things were variable, changeable, and those new crews again, a little bit rabbit in the headlights. Things happening very quick out there, but if you're out in front, it all feels pretty good.
So Spain gets the win in race number 2, and then the third and final race. Once again, Germany at the front end of the race course, but in the end, really, masterclass by Nathan Outteridge, who's forgot more about sailing than most people will ever know in their life.
Well, he's a pretty good super sub to have come on board. He's definitely one of the leading drivers in SailGP, so to step into a crew that he works with in the America's Cup World anyway, it's been a pretty natural fit, but they've learned through the day, and they're going to be feeling good for tomorrow.
So there you go. After 3 races on day number 1, consistency certainly is the king, and Rockwell, Denmark, and Australia share the top spot. New Zealand sitting currently in second by themselves. France still in the running, as is Spain, and then you see the big gap, Stevie. So the top 5 teams looking very good for tomorrow. Still an opportunity for those other teams, but they're going to need something massive to happen for them to get in there. And unfortunately for Canada, really no shot of getting into it. But Denmark looks so very good. Nikolai Sehested, the Great Dane, back in the mix here in Sydney. Let's send it down to Lisa Darmanin, who's on the water. And we now check in with Nikolai Sehested. Nikolai, welcome back to SailGP. It's good to have you with us. You like these strong gusts that we're seeing here in Sydney?
Yeah, thanks. It's good to be back. It's yeah, we like this stuff. You know, it's hard boat handling and just hustling in big shifts and puffs, and yeah, like a lot of difficult maneuvers. Oh.
Nikolai, we thought you might be a bit rusty having an event away. How easy has it been to gel back with the team straight away?
I am a bit rusty. With less warm-up, I could feel it, but the guys are not rusty. They're helping me through it, and we had some really solid teamwork today, and it makes my life a lot easier.
Nikolai, thanks so much. We wish you guys best of luck tomorrow. 2 more fleet races, and maybe we'll see you in the event final. So the Great Dane's looking very good, looking very consistent, and now everyone turns their attention to tomorrow. 2 more fleet races before the event final. Everyone wants to know what the weather will be. For that, we check in with Lisa.
Well, it's going to be even trickier tomorrow. The wind is looking like it's going to shift further round to the north race course tomorrow. It's going to also be a lot lighter, so 20 to see Shark Island will still remain a very difficult feature for the second.
A little bit of breakup there with Lisa going around Genesis Island. Emily, all right, we turn our attention to tomorrow. What is the most important thing you want to see, and who's your team to watch?
Well, my team to watch is definitely the Danish. I said it before the event started that I thought these conditions would suit them well. They've got experience in big breeze, but also in the marginal conditions. And especially tomorrow, that's what it's going to be all about.
Same question to you, Stevie. Who do you like, and who do you think is going to be the team to beat?
Still think Australians look very good out there. There's going to be a configuration change. Lighter winds means we're probably going to see different foils on the boat for tomorrow, but Australia are going to be the team to beat.
All right, so that wraps up day number 1, and what a combination. On behalf of Lisa Darmanin, Emily Nagel, and Stevie Morrison, I'm Todd Harris. We will see you for day number 2 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney. Until then, so long, everybody. Welcome to day one of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix.
What a start for Taylor Canfield. Here goes Nikolai Seherstedt. So the Germans fly too high. Look how tight it is. Germany must keep clear. Whoa! The Germans missed the mark. Oh, and this could be disaster for the German.
The 8th event of Season 4 has SailGP venturing into the Southern Hemisphere for the first of 2 stops. After conquering North American, European, and Middle Eastern waters, one of the most iconic sailing backdrops in the world takes center stage. Welcome to Sydney Harbour. Day 2 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix has arrived with the 10-boat international fleet dreaming of striking it rich down under. The top of the leaderboard couldn't be tighter. Every point matters as we head towards the grand final in San Francisco in July. I'm Todd Harrison. Joining me for today's action are sailing veterans Olympian Stevie Morrison and former world champion Emily Nagel. With 7 events complete, it's the Australians leading the way, 6 points clear of their close rivals, the Kiwis, who after winning the last 2 events sit in 2nd place. But their missing driver Pete Burling this weekend as Nathan Outteridge gets the call to fill in. The battle for 3rd place is tight with just 2 points between the next 4 teams as the USA, Rockwell, Denmark, Spain, and Emirates Great Britain came to Sydney looking to make gains. France and Canada are still in the fight but will need to go on a winning streak. So let's take a look back at how the teams fared in the first 3 fleet races from day 1's racing in Sydney.
Sydney Harbour showcased why it's one of the best and most challenging places in the world to sail.
Another big moment on board the Swish boat. Wow! Look how tight it is. And the Germans fly too high. Great start, Spain. Great start, New Zealand. What a start for Taylor Canfield and the United States crew.
Australia made light work, overhauling the United States in race 1, laying down their mark on home waters.
They're going faster and they're sailing less distance.
With Nikolai Seherstedt back on board, they showed their tactical flair with a slingshot around Genesis Island.
And round the outside, here goes Nikolai Seherstedt.
Australia sailed clear for the win.
The Aussies take the win in race number 1.
And Denmark held off the fleet for 2nd.
Diego Botín looks like he's got his timing right, and Spain are up and foiling.
Spain managed to find the best wind and defended against the informed Danes and Australians.
Tom Slingsby, wow, he is absolutely breathing down the young Spanish crew's neck.
Behind them, Germany and France scrapped for every inch.
Whoa! The Germans missed the mark! Oh, and this could be disaster for the German crew.
Spain proved to Tom Slingsby that they are a force to be reckoned with.
In race number 2, it is Spain that takes the victory.
Eric Heil, what a start at the bottom of the line. He brushed off the incident in the last race again. New Zealand comes through 2nd.
With Nathan Outteridge standing in for Peter Burling on board New Zealand, he found his groove and took the final race of the day for 3rd place overall.
And while it was a good day for some, it was a day to forget for Emirates GBR and Team USA. Disappointing performances yesterday sees them out of the running for today's event final. It was frustration too for Canada. Mechanical issues at the start of race 1 saw them finish last and prevented them from competing in races 2 and 3. After one day of racing in Sydney, there is a tie atop the leaderboard with Denmark and the defending season champions Australia even on points. But the battle for 3rd place sees the Kiwis 3 points ahead of France, with Spain sitting in 5th overall on 20. For the rest of the pack, only a miracle will see them make today's event final. Remember that after today's 2 full fleet races, only the top 3 on points will compete in the event final, where the winner of that race takes the KPMG Australia SailGP title, as well as the 10 season points that come with that win. Stevie Morrison now has a look at today's course here on the Sydney Harbour.
The iconic Sydney Harbour is picture perfect today, and it's going to be a great start and then a sprint to Mark 1. After Mark 1, the course opens up tactically. At each gate, the boats can take a left or a right turn. to get these F-50s sailing fast, they need to sail at an angle to the wind. So that's why we see them crisscrossing the harbour, trying to find the best wind and the shortest course between gates. It's going to be a tight race course. It's about boat speed and accuracy to finish first in front of the fans on Genesis Island.
And Genesis Island certainly is the place to be here on a beautiful Sunday in Sydney, Australia. We've got local knowledge coming in the form of Olympic silver medalist Lisa Darmanin, who's down on the water. We'll get back to Lisa Darmanin in just a moment as we get ready for racing action. Remember, this is race number 4, 2 fleet races before we get to that event final. Emily, as you look at the conditions out there, what are you anticipating? And give me another boat that you'd like to see perform well in this first race of Sunday.
Well, it's going to be a glamour day out there. It is a little less windy than it was yesterday, but it's a much more consistent direction. So the wind's funneling through the heads, so it should be brilliant conditions for the racing out there. I'd love to see what happens between France and Denmark today, and if they can fight it into that grand final today.
Everyone getting into position as all 10 boats will be on the start line. Canada's got their problems sorted out, and we are ready to go racing. So here we go. All 10 boats of the fleet are ready to go. Mechanical problems worked out, and Stevie, the conditions could not be much better as everyone gets themselves into a very tight and tricky start box.
Yeah, I think if Lisa had been able to speak to us, then she'd have told us we've got a fantastic bit of breeze. We've got the bigger foils. We've got the 24-metre wing with the big jib. So we've got maximum horsepower on the boats out there on the water today. Good for setting up for foiling. But the race course is a little bit more steady, a little bit more sailable. So it's going to be about accuracy. It's going to be tight racing. And look at the fleet gathering towards the right-hand side of the screen there. Switzerland, USA leading the fleet back. Australia way out the back at the moment as New Zealand charge towards the line. It feels like people might be a little late. Certainly Germany look a little late on parade, but it's all about how well they've judged that timing now. Germany spin the boat at the bottom of the line. USA towards the top of the line. Australia, France and Spain look late. We're looking for this line to turn white, and we're going to be go in Sydney for race 4 on Sunday. How's your timing at the top of the line? Great start by the USA, but it's Switzerland and Germany again with a fantastic start. 3 in a row for Eric Heil off the bottom of the line, and it's a drag race to Mark 1.
Coming up to mark number 1 of race number 4 here on Sunday. Germany on the inside line, but look at the speed that Switzerland has.
An aggressive move by New Zealand, forcing everyone wide, secures 3rd place. Fantastic from Eric Heil. And this boundary comes real fast coming in here. It's super closer to the fleet as we see New Zealand first to turn away. Germany in control of Switzerland, and it's all about accuracy of manoeuvres as the boats head off downwind. But look at this, USA are pushed wide and Australia are back in last place at the moment. No good for the hometown heroes right now.
Up here? No, not yet, yeah.
Remember, coming into today, it was Denmark and Australia tied on points. You need to be in the top 3 to get to that final.
Front 3 boats all doing over 60 kilometres an hour as they approach gate 2.
This is where we're going to learn a lot about the course, Todd. Of course, Shark Island yesterday was a real problem. Genesis Island, it's rebranded for this event, and that's off the top left of our screen. It's all about who can make the gain with minimum manoeuvres. It looks like Germany going to be able to turn left very easily, Switzerland turn right. Who is going to be the first boat to make the overtakes here as we see New Zealand coming in 3rd, but which way is going to favour? Will Switzerland gain sailing away from the wind shadow of Genesis Island, or will Germany gain by minimising manoeuvres heading that way? It's going to be interesting. We're going to learn a lot about the course in the next 60 or 90 seconds.
Elevated heart rates here on the first race. We've got one more fleet race coming up after this one, and then the fleet is cut to only the top 3.
Already we're seeing slightly less pressure on the right-hand side, top of the screen where Germany are. They're down in 18 to 20 kilometres an hour of pressure, while Switzerland have had up to 23 at the bottom of the screen.
But it's tight. Germany has the right of way. Switzerland need to be assured they're ahead. New Zealand are getting sucked back into the pack here. Outteridge had to dip away, but it's Germany. Well, it's all pretty even. Not a lot in that at the bottom of the course there. there. Switzerland are out in front. What a great moment for this Swiss crew to be leading away, and they've now got control of the race course, and they again look to turn the boat. None of the fleet want to seem to get stuck in what I imagine is the wind shadow of Genesis Island. It's great to have all the fans there, but it's not helping the wind for the fleet. As we see, look at the fleet congested on this boundary. They're over here looking for more wind. As we see a close moment with Great Britain and Canada, that looked like Canada pushed that a bit tight to me.
So a time to shine as you see the ride heights on the left-hand side. That's all about foiling. How high out of the water, Stevie? As we know, the higher you fly, the more unstable the boat is.
Well, it's more unstable, Todd, the higher you fly it out of the water, but there's less boat, there's less foil in the water, there's less drag. If you minimise drag, you're going to go faster. So, yeah, you're racing on the edge, but you've got to be going a little bit quicker.
So the optimum number we're looking for there is around 1 metre. So it's on the limit, but it's quick.
Tight moment there. Germany had to keep clear of Switzerland, but right now Germany are going to be sailing a faster mode. Switzerland are going to be struggling, potentially getting into the dirty wind of Germany, and the right of way is now with Germany. Germany can turn whenever they want to, and Switzerland will need to keep clear. It's really tight in the pack out here today.
So the disturbed air coming off of Germany slowing down Switzerland, and off the right-hand side there you see Emirates GBR. They need a big performance here, although they're probably not going to make the top three.
No, we have to okay, all good.
Conversation on board Switzerland. They're talking about when Germany manoeuvres, Germany will have the right of way. Switzerland will have to keep clear. Seb Schneider thinks he's going to go behind him. Here we go. Tight cross coming up. It's going to be real close. Switzerland spin the boat away from the wind, hoping to make the right turn. Germany's turning left, and I think that left turn probably is going to be favoured. Germany are sailing back towards more wind, and it's going to be a really tight upwind leg. Look at that. Nothing in it on that upwind leg. As New Zealand fight their way back to third, they look to turn left as well.
Stay above.
And the race to the final is on. Currently, we're still seeing the same top 3 teams, Denmark, New Zealand and Australia. France still have some work to do if they want to make it into that final.
Heartbreaker for France, Stevie. This has got to be, what, the 3rd race in a row where they're going to maybe just miss out by mere points?
Yeah, there are a few points back at the moment, Todd, for sure. It's been a bit of a tough break for them, but it's interesting how tight. The wind's a lot steadier today, and the fleet is so congested right now. It's really, really tight. When you're back in this pack, the wind's disturbed, your tactical decision-making is really compromised. If you've got less wind, it's hard to go as fast out there. As we see, it looks like a gain to Germany at the moment, but they're going to, when they manoeuvre back towards Switzerland, it's going to be Switzerland with the right of way. A crucial moment for the German crew here.
On leg 4 of 7, race number 4, the first race of Sunday, we've reconnected with Lisa Darmana down on the water. Lisa, what are you seeing, and more importantly, what are you hearing as far as a forecast?
Well, the forecast wasn't looking good, but I can tell you we've got more than we were promised. So I think all the sailors are pretty happy. We've got these 24-metre all-purpose wings and light air boards, so nice big foils for them to try execute the foiling manoeuvres. We don't know if it's going to increase or not. I'm definitely hopeful, but it is really gusty out here, and you've got to be careful not to get trapped under too many headlands and get in light breeze. But yeah, what a race course. It's going to be so tight out here, and I think it's anyone's game, really.
At gate number 4, it is Germany, the first to make the turn. Switzerland sits in second, and New Zealand with Nathan Outteridge filling in for Pete Burling, currently in 3rd. Denmark in 4th. Remember, they're tied on the overall right now. And then you have Emirates GBR and the Aussies in 6th.
Really interesting, as we saw coming in there. New Zealand chose to go behind Switzerland, and a lot of the boats back in the fleet are trying to minimise the number of manoeuvres they do. Every time you turn the boat, be it through the wind, up into the wind, whatever it is, you lose distance. So it's a guaranteed loss when you do that.
And we've just seen Germany there drop off the foils in that manoeuvre. They're back up in foiling now, but that's crucial meters lost when they're trying to hold on to the lead.
Stevie, one thing I've noticed, I think, over this season especially is there's a lot of teams that can get the lead. They can get the whole shot. They can get to mark one first and hold on. It's the teams that can maintain that and stay out in front, because then you see the guys like Tom Slingsby and Nikolai Sehested and, you know, Pete Burling. They're going to come through and they'll find a way to get around you.
Yeah, and it's just the accuracy of the manoeuvres. We saw the United States, their new crew, they're learning on the job, but they fell off the foils. They're hemorrhaging a lot of meters, and when you're in the pack and you're compromised, it's hard to sail the boat as smoothly as this. Look how how high the hull of that German boat's flying out the water. They're just doing a fantastic job, but that's because there's no one in their way. There's no one compromising what they do out there on the water. And that just means it's a lot easier. Once you're back in the pack, your decisions are affected, the way you sail the boat's compromised, and if you haven't got that experience, it's hard to be as smooth as that. Near perfect tack from Germany there. New crew, they looked a bit messy yesterday, but put them out in front. They do a great job, Todd.
Well, don't want to give him the announcer jinx, but this would be the first win in SailGP history for the German team. Remember, this is their first season competing, so a huge victory on a very tricky course, Stevie. Remember, we've gone away from light winds to very heavy winds.
And just look at this performance by Germany. 100% fly time, the only team to stay up on the foils for this entire race.
So can they maintain it through all 7 legs here of race number 4? They've got a sizable lead of over 150 meters. Remember, another fleet race still to come with numbers being crunched. And right now, it looks like it could be Australia, New Zealand, and Denmark in the event final to close things out here in Australia.
Well, it's tight. And right now, the German crew are sailing a near faultless race. We said staying on the foils, that's great, but they've had 3 fantastic starts in a row. And this is a really solid performance. Again, setting up for the left turn. That's definitely a feature that we're seeing coming away. Top of our screen, that's a bay in there. There's less wind. And Germany, now they've got to be careful. New Zealand are entitled to room to turn inside here. Germany have to give New Zealand room. Are they clear ahead? I think it's tight. I think they're ahead, but don't be surprised for Nathan Outteridge. He's going to press the button and he's going to ask the question of Craig Mitchell there. Germany had to give him room. That's going to go to the umpires.
Did someone flag it?
Nathan Outteridge there, he's saying, did someone flag it? He's saying, did someone press the protest button? Liv Mackay, she's at the back, strategist, hit the protest button, and we'll expect to hear something from the umpires on that decision.
Or not. 2-time Olympic bronze medalist Eric Heil of Germany takes a chance there. An aggressive move by Nathan Outteridge as he comes in hot, and so far no penalty issued as they are now at mark number 6, and now it is a sprint to the finish.
Yeah, we just heard from Chief Umpire Craig Mitchell that it was very, very close, but it's been given a clear green flag, so great sigh of relief for Eric Heil and the German crew, and it's now just a sprint across there. Perfect execution, they pushed the limit, and they're going to get their reward.
So history in the making on day 2 at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, winning race number 4 and picking up their first win. It's Germany SailGP taking the victory in Sydney Harbour.
What a start indeed. Sjoerd Biffel wing trim with that. New Zealand bring it home in second. That's great for them on the overalls here. Good result for Switzerland as well. Really nice result for Seb Snyder, and a few of the newer crews really showing some form. It's pretty much perfect conditions out here on Sydney Harbour. It's not too difficult sailing in terms of sailing the boat, so it allows them to show off their racing skills. And there we are. 4th and 5th. Yep. Brilliant performances yesterday by Denmark and Nikolaj Sejersted, and then Tom Slingsby. Well, he's never too far away from the front, is he?
We talk about consistency being king, and maybe some people will say, oh man, Australia and Denmark didn't do well, but Stevie, that's okay. They're okay to let Germany and Switzerland get a win here because it doesn't really harm them that much.
They just got to get to that 3-boat final at the end of today, and as soon as you get there, it doesn't matter what your points are. If you're in the final, you're fighting for the win.
Race 4 goes the way of the Germans. Spain will come through in 7th place, so a bit of disappointment there for Diego Botín as they are on the cusp of possibly making that 3-boat final. A bounce back in a sense for Canada and Phil Roberts. Remember, they were out of the last 2 races yesterday, and then France, really disappointing to see them drop back to 9th.
Yeah, disappointing for France and disappointing for the USA. New crew, and there's a lot of learning to be done, of course, on the boat, but they'd have been hoping for better than this, I'm sure of that, after a good performance. But I think it's just ironing out manoeuvres. What was interesting in that, and we've got to look for, a lot of the crews misjudged the start. There's a bit less wind in that start zone, and not all, but a lot of the crews were late coming back. Basic error. They should learn from that. But it's also then, how do I execute my manoeuvres? Australia at the back, every time they turn the boat, because they're the best boat in the fleet, they gain a couple of meters. They do the simple things very, very well, and that's why Denmark, Rockwool Denmark with Nikolaj Sejersted, why the Australians are able to move through from 10th up to 5th and 6th to get a decent result, whereas the USA, those manoeuvres aren't quite clinical enough, and they're losing meters.
It's just distracting with the jib, I don't know. how to figure that out.
So frustration for the Americans as they finish in 10th. The entire fleet is home, and race number 4 is now complete with just one race to go before the fleet is cut to only the top 3. So 4 races down, and it is New Zealand and Rockwool, Denmark, still tied on points with 33. 1 point back is Australia, and it's Spain now, dropping back to 24 points. France on 23, Stevie. It's going to be tough for them to catch those top 3, and so it's starting to look like, Emily, New Zealand, Rockwool, and Australia could be our final 3.
Yeah, I'd say that top 3 is pretty well locked in. It would take something pretty drastic for Spain to be able to jump up.
It's damage limitation now for USA, Emirates, Great Britain. Can they jump a couple more places for the season points? Because this is a horrendous regatta, season-wise, if they can't make things happen.
Nathan Outteridge steps on board, and they have themselves tied for first place.
And this was the race-winning move by Team Germany. They came in last minute, and in that final 20 seconds, they maneuvered round with speed. While a lot of the fleet were off of the foils, conserving momentum, they were able to hit the line with pace, alongside Switzerland, who were also up on the foils. This led to those 2 teams being the ones to reach Mark 1s first.
From that good start, of course, it meant that these 2 newer crews were able to sail very clean. They had a great race out in front, but they're making their own decisions, and it just came down to really small details of execution here. The Swiss had to maneuver close to Germany. That then gave the Germans a slight advantage, and it was that area of light wind in the top left-hand corner of our screen that Germany managed to avoid fantastically, but they only just got in front of New Zealand a lap later. For me, that was really close, but for the umpires, it was okay. And anyway, it's the umpire's decision that counts, not mine. And, well, there you go. Perfect judgment by Eric Heil. Nathan Outteridge certainly slung it in there. And it's Eric Heil and the Germans winning the race. Great start to the day here in Sydney.
So it's Germany that gets the win, New Zealand second, and Switzerland finishing in third. We're now happy to go on board the German boat. Eric Heil is the skipper. Eric, congratulations. You guys pick up your first victory here ever in SailGP. The start was the key. It looked like you guys were late first, but was that part of the strategy to come in the way you did?
I mean, to be honest, we were a little too late. We expected to accelerate a little quicker, but the plan was good, and I mean we have glamour conditions out here. I think best conditions we had for the whole season so far, and looking forward to the next race.
And Eric, is these conditions, do you think it levels the playing field? Are you finding it a bit easier sailing the F50 in these conditions?
I mean, the big foils, they help a lot compared to yesterday. It's quite loose on the HSBs, and the bigger foils, they make it and the maneuvers way easier for us to maneuver.
Well, Eric, it certainly looks like a good performance. I guess the start will be crucial again, so I suggest you go and maybe practice the start again, and look forward to seeing you in race 5.
Exactly, thank you.
So Germany's SailGP makes history in Sydney as they pick up their first win here in their first season of competition. What a start for them, and what a day in the Sydney Harbor. And look at this, we got royalty. That is rock and roll, registered out of London, and none other the boat of that man with the white cap on, Roger Taylor, the drummer, the world-famous Queen.
Hey everyone, it's CJ, and I am back for day 2 of racing here at the Australian Sail Grand Prix. I am here in the heart of Sydney, where the weather is absolutely beautiful. This is what we call champagne sailing. I mean, it's so warm, the sun is out, and there is some really great breeze out here. It's around 12 knots, and the wind is much more consistent than what we saw yesterday. Yesterday was very up and down, is very gusty, but today I see breeze all around the course, which is why the boats are foiling all the time. What a great way to start the day with Germany, one of the newest teams, getting a race win here. There was a really cool battle up at the top mark between Switzerland and Germany. We saw Switzerland take the upwind top right mark down, and I think they got stuck in a lull. I see on the right side of the course, it gets a little bit lighter as teams do their first jibe on the downwind, so they tend to fall off the foils there, whereas the Germans, they took the top left-hand mark going downwind, and they managed to stay on the foils much longer, and that's where they passed Switzerland. And the Germans just did a really good all throughout that race, staying on the foils. They had a really great start. They had a different strategy than the other teams, and it all paid off. They ended up getting their first win here, and as a new team, I think they can be very, very proud of that. The Australians, they did not have a good start, but they ended up making up for it because they ended up with a middle position at the end of the race, and they're lucky because their competitors, Denmark, they only finished one spot ahead of them, so they really need to make sure to stay close with them throughout the rest of this race. I see the boats are getting ready. They're attaching with their shore team, and they're preparing for the next race, drinking some Red Bull, having some water, and chatting with their coaches. So let's go ahead and watch this next race. It's going to be awesome.
Like thunder speaking. Flying carbon machines driven by the world's best. Yes, powered by nature, powered by nature. We are SailGP.
Season 4, Event 8 of 13, the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, beautiful Sydney Harbour and Genesis Island, as the fans have turned out in mass to see the world's best sailors competing on these foiling F50s. And what a start, Stevie, to Sunday as everyone settle in for the all-important 5th and final fleet race.
Well, isn't it just great to see such fantastic sailing conditions out here on Sydney Harbour? And we see the leaderboard on the left there. New Zealand, Denmark and Australia have done a fantastic job. And New Zealand at the top of the leaderboard. It's interesting, actually, Todd, because I've had the Pete Burling on the phone, and he's saying how in these conditions the boat is pretty easy to sail. He likes the left-hand side of the course, and he likes what he sees Nathan Outteridge doing in that Kiwi boat at the minute.
Well, at SailGP, progression is always at the forefront of making the sport more exciting while pushing the limits of what is possible. And no element has been scrutinized as much as the apparatus that allows the F50 to fly. With that in mind, the next generation of foiling is on its way with the development of the new T-foils coming in Season 5.
The foils on the F50 lift these epic machines out of the water, just like an aeroplane on a runway. Once it hits the right speed, it can take off to reach nearly 4 times the wind speed. SailGP Technologies is always innovating and improving the F50. A new T-foil is in development in pursuit of speed and resilience.
The T-foil will have metal components primarily at the junction, but basically you avoid the bend area, which was highly stressed carbon in the first generation set of foils. Could load the elbow region of the L foils in such a way that it would delaminate. So the new foils basically should be proof against that.
Not only will the titanium T-foils be more resilient, they will also be thinner.
One of the advantages in the T-foil is we no longer have a bend. We have a T-junction. So the foils can be thinner, and being thinner, they can go faster.
Real-world testing back in Dubai gave surprise results.
The HSB2 was taking off in 6.5 knots of wind. That was a significant improvement over the HSB1. And what the upshot of that is we can redesign the foils to be smaller because they're performing better than we had originally anticipated, and that means they'll be faster.
The first iterations of those we hope to see in Season 5, so we're looking to implement these changes in the fleet during that time, and obviously go through sea trials with the new equipment to make sure it's performing as it should be. A lot of this work would be done in the break from our last event in July to the first event in Season 5, which will be in November. So, yeah, exciting times.
So it's a case of, so you're saying there's a chance. Emily Nagel, there is still a chance for Spain to make the top 3, but they're going to need some help.
there is a chance, but it's pretty slim. They would need to win this final race, and they'd also need Australia to come last. On top of that, they would also need a poor performance from France, Germany, and Switzerland. So it's not impossible, but it's going to take a bit of luck.
So right now it's New Zealand, Denmark, and Australia in the top 3 spots, with Spain currently on the outside looking in, hoping for a little bit of miracle. And Australia currently sitting in 3rd place, a great spot to be, 8 points clear of 4th, so they should be out of danger. And we will see if Tom Slingsby can defend home water. Just a short time ago, Lisa Darmanin was able to get down next to the Flying Roo and get their thoughts as they prepare for the race here in race number 5 in Sydney Harbor.
Well, Tom, obviously that start was pretty challenging, but you managed to fight your way back through that one.
Yeah, I said before today I've really got to work on my starts, and it looked like I was concentrating on the opposite. We just got into the start area, and it was a lot lighter than our practice runs, and we just didn't do very well. Yeah, didn't do a good job.
You guys are pretty good at bouncing back, and obviously really strong at being able to fight back through the fleet. What's the key there? Is it shift or is it boat handling?
I think it's shift and pressure, really. It's yeah, you got to time and you got to like mow the boat well. Like every time you get a good lift and pressure and it's really good, you got to really use that opportunity to, whether it's cross the course, cross your competitors, and then when it gets light, the whole goal is to just get to that next gust as quick as you can. But yeah, it's a tricky course, but it's a beautiful course. What a spot.
Well, you're sitting 3rd overall. Obviously, you've got to have a great one this race. Is there any different strategy or just get off that start line?
Yeah, I just want to start well. If we start well, we've seen what we can do in race 1 of this event. We start well, we're going to be hard to stop. So I got to focus on that.
Well, don't get too distracted by the crowd on Shark Island. They're cheering you guys on pretty hard.
Yeah, no, everyone's screaming, cheering our name. It's unbelievable to be out here. Like, what a venue for sailing.
Thanks, Tom, and good luck.
Awesome, thank you.
So Tom Slingsby and the Australians, remember they are the 3-time reigning and defending champions in SailGP, looking to make it 4 in a row as we are under 4 minutes away to the 5th and final fleet race before the event final. Let's get another conditions report with Lisa Darmanin down on the water.
Well, Todd, it is looking fantastic still. The wind has increased just slightly since we got out here. We're seeing around 28 kilometers per hour in the top gust. But as Tom was saying, it is really puffy out here. There's real opportunity. And we're seeing so many boat-on-boat situations, positioning yourself well against other boats and staying in clear air. But that start box is a dangerous place to be. It's a lot lighter over there under the headland. So I think it'll be interesting to see how the team set up for this one. And yeah, another ripper day on Sydney Harbour.
Lisa, a follow-up question before we let you go, before the start of race 5. With the conditions the way they are right now, are there opportunities for passing still, taking into effect Genesis Island and what they're looking at with 3 minutes to go?
I definitely think from 2nd to 7th, there's definitely opportunities for overtaking, but that strength, if you lead at Mark 1, you can dictate where you go, you can make that decision, you can get clear air, and I think that's what we saw with the Germans, and traditionally that's what we see on a course like this. So Mark 1 first is a pretty nice place to be.
All right, thank you, Lisa. Get yourself into position as we all get ready for the 5th and final fleet race here at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix. Sydney, Stevie, you said it before many a times, get the start, get the whole shot, and you can dictate to the rest of the fleet.
Yeah, I think it's all about that detail in the pre-start. Boat's relatively easy to sail today, so be accurate, get it right at the start.
Just over 2 minutes to go until the 5th and final fleet race here at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, and it is all to play for. Now, the top 3 teams, Emily, are pretty safe, but as you pointed out, Spain still has an opportunity to make it happen. But we've talked about this throughout the season. Consistency has been the key, and Denmark has been a very consistent team.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Denmark this weekend. They've performed brilliantly and sailed just so consistently without being conservative. That's always the risk. If you want to play it safe, you're a little bit conservative, but then you just never quite reached that top position.
And that crew list there, Tom Johnson, Luke Payne, 2 Australians racing on home water for the Danish team. They'll be pretty hungry to get it done as we see the New Zealand crew there. Of course, we've got an Australian driver driving that Kiwi boat, so we know Nathan Outteridge is going to be pretty hungry. And then, well, with the Aussie in the Aussie boat in Tom Slingsby, it's all going to get pretty tasty, I think. I talk about momentum on a day like today. How well he is starting. Tom Slingsby's not happy with his starting. He wants to get that right. That top right-hand corner there is the area where there was less wind. The crews don't want to get stuck there and late, but you need to get a start right here if you want to win this race.
1 minute to go until the start of race number 5, the final race here in Sydney Harbor. And here we go. Put yourself in the right position, Stevie, and you are golden at Mark 1.
That's right. It's all about that timing back towards the line. Rockwool, Denmark look good, Australia, but where's Germany and Spain? We're going to expect to see them coming in bottom of screen. Here they come. This is the German approach, the late slingshot at the bottom of the line. It worked for them last time, but will they be found out? It's tight in above Genesis Island there. Look how congested it all is. Great Britain leading back here. Rockwool, Denmark, they're under pressure from New Zealand, but it's Germany. Look like they're playing their card at the bottom of the line. They spin in. Can Eric Heil get it right again? He's going to need to spin the boat pretty quick. Switzerland come down. New Zealand, Denmark are all tied up at the top of the line. It's all about timing now. Germany, 10 seconds to go. When will the crews start to wind it up? The fleet have judged it better this time. Spain, Germany, Switzerland at the bottom of the line. Look for the line to turn white, and it's going to be a clear start, is it? Oh, it's so early, I think, there maybe for Switzerland. They look like they were really, really early. I think they're over the line. France, Quentin Delapierre, bullet out the gun on the blue boat, and he's going to lead us at Mark 1 from here.
So at mark number 1 of the 5th fleet race here in Australia, it is France that gets the whole shot. Spain on the inside and Canada, and Phil Robertson on the outside.
Oh, that was so close. Switzerland and Germany got penalties in the pre-start, so they're going to need to be at the back of the pack before they go. As we see Quentin Delapierre, he needed a good start. He got it. New Zealand are in the pack. Australia, again, a bad start for Slingsby. That was his last chance to practice that before the final, if he can get himself out of last place and guarantee that place, as Spain have had a good race so far.
Now, this could be some big news, having Australia at the back of the fleet and France in first. That might actually have a little bit of a switcheroo if we're not careful.
2-point difference right now, so France would need a lot of help. They'd need Australia to stay in the back. Stevie, you know Tom Slingsby's not going to stay there for long, but France, with their best start of the entire regatta, they lead at gate number 2, and it is Spain in second, Canada in third, and the USA in fourth. Remember, this really doesn't harm Denmark and Australia and New Zealand because those boats are so far back of them on points.
Well, that's right. As we see, look how tight it is setting up for the left turn here. Spain around, USA are going to go around clean, and Great Britain peel away. New Zealand have got a really tricky manoeuvre to do here. They've got to do a flip-flop jive. They've got to turn the boat, and then, oh, he's going to choose to go all the way across on New Zealand. Nathan Outteridge, last-minute change of mind, I think, there. Sets up for a right turn, but Australia, they're up to 8th. That should be enough for them at the moment, but they're not making it easy.
Yeah, 8th would see them through to the final, but if they lose any more positions, that will see France in and them out.
So there it is right now, France in 4th place. Denmark would be in the final, as would be New Zealand, and Australia would be in 3rd. Keep an eye on that on the left side of your screen. We'll keep updating that as it is appropriate. But right now, it would be Denmark, New Zealand, and Australia. No surprise there, Stevie. They've all been consistent throughout the weekend.
Yeah, they're just very good at doing the simple things. They do the good manoeuvres, and we see here, if you do get a good start, it's a lot easier. France is sailing the boat well. Spain, look how locked in that platform is. How stable is it? How much is it going up and down out the water? That shows you how smooth they're sailing, and Spain looks really locked in here. They're going fast aboard that boat, but they're not managing to make the gains on France that they'd like to, and you can expect in a minute the French to get right in their way.
Yes, bang on, mate.
So France trying to make things interesting with Spain sitting in 2nd place. Remember, Emily Hagel pointed out that if Spain gets the win and gets a lot of help, there is a chance or a pathway for them to get into the final, but it's going to be very, very tricky to keep Tom Slingsby out of home waters in another final.
We see right-hand side of our screen, that's the Aussies there, and Tom Slingsby's managed to find some space, even though he's in the pack, and they are just moving that Rue boat through the fleet so quickly. Even when they're in the pack, they seem to be able to sail that little bit faster than other boats around them. They're always gaining on those boats near them, and that's what they need to do now, because at the moment, he cannot get that green boat off the start line.
Quentin Delapierre and the French now have moved right next to Diego Botín and Spain, so they're having a little match race of their own. Meanwhile, crunching the numbers still is Australia moving up. They are sitting in 7th, 1 spot ahead of New Zealand, Germany, and Switzerland. Remember, pre-start penalties have them in the back, and maybe the best race so far of the weekend for Taylor Canfield and the Americans as they currently sit in 4th.
Yeah, the US are doing a nice job at the moment here. Very disappointing race 4, but they look good, and look at that race to the final.
And still holding steady, Denmark, New Zealand and Australia will be through to the top 3 if these positions hold.
Isn't this, Stevie, a typical Tom Slingsby setup? They don't really perform great. He wins race number 1, 2nd in race number 2, then 4th in race number 3. Not a great performance for them in 4 as they finish 5th, but he does just enough to get to that final, and then he turns on the magic.
This is the umpires. Penalty Spain, relative Canada, not giving room at the mark.
Oh, that was a really tight moment there. Phil Robertson absolutely maximising it. Spain need to drop back behind Canada here. Costly for them if they're to have any hope. But at the moment, to be fair, Tom Slingsby's not making any mistakes. And yeah, pretty much classic Tom Slingsby. But see the frustration in that interview, and he really didn't hit the start very well on that one at all. And he'll be frustrated. We know how Tom can get into himself. He can be very hard on himself. He needs to probably just take the weight off his shoulders. He's got the pressure of that home crowd. We know how fast they can sail the boat. Look how smoothly they're setting up there. Jason Waterhouse, flight controller, always renowned for pushing that ride height really high. Carl Langford, the wing trimmer. They get the most out of the boat, but they've got to put themselves a couple of metres further forward at the gun.
And if they do get through to this final, they need to work out how to start pretty quickly.
So the French having their best race so far. Remember, they started off the regatta with 2 5th-place performances before a 3rd in race number 3. And of course, in the last race, they finished in 9th place. So they're going to really have to look back at race number 4, Stevie, as the race that kind of did them in that 9th place. If they could have moved up even the top 6, they would probably be in a position now to take that 3rd and final transfer position into the event final.
Yeah, and as you said, I mean, they're sailing so consistently at the moment. It looks like it could be another 4th overall for them, barring slip-ups for the Australians. And it's just those details. Tight moment here. New Zealand has the right of way. They set up to manoeuvre, though. They're going to turn right in front of the Australians. This could be a little dress rehearsal for some manoeuvres in the final itself. Is New Zealand comfortably ahead? They are. Should the boats overlap, New Zealand are going to need to be careful. It's tight coming into this gate. Just judged perfectly by the Kiwi crew if they could make it down to that left turn. As we see now, France boosting out in front of the Canadians. The Canadians have had a dirty weekend. Australia now, they're suffering. That's the wing wash, the disturbed wind from the New Zealand boat. That's not helping Australia.
Not helping them, but they are still holding on to the position. Now, for France, they might not make this final, but overall, their position will be brilliant for the season scoreboard, as this would see them jump ahead of USA and Great Britain overall.
Quentin Delapierre really anticipating some big wins down here. They do quite well in that. He'll have to look to the next event, which will be New Zealand. Of course, that coming up at the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch. Boy, right now, Stevie, they look smooth, they look fast.
Yeah, and we just heard them. We just heard a call from Kevin Pepinay saying un peu plus. He wants them to fly a little bit higher. He wants Jason Saunders to get the boat a little bit higher out of the water. He's like, come on, we've got this. Let's push this French boat as hard as we can. And we see on the right-hand side of the screen how high that French boat is as they set up for a manoeuvre. The tempo went up a little bit there, slight mistake on the French boat, but you can afford that when you're that far ahead, as we can see the battle, the North American battle, Todd, Canada against the USA, as we see the Battle of the Tasman Sea between the 2 Australian drivers. Tom Slingsby and Nathan Outteridge are tight. They're locked together here, right of way with Australia, but can the New Zealand boat put the pressure on and send some disturbed wind up towards that Australian boat? Again, dress rehearsal for the final taking place in front of our eyes.
And this is the battle for 7th and 8th. A boat we have not talked about here in race number 5 is Denmark. They are quietly riding a very clean race. They currently sit in 5th place, and they will probably go in as the #1 seed. Not that the points matter, Stevie, but the consistency of Nikolai Sehested and that squad here in Sydney Harbour has been amazing.
We rarely talk about Nikolai, though, do we? It's like the silent assassin.
The Great
They just
Dane.
get the job done, but the trouble is, you've got to go out and you've got to shoot the bullet in the final and take that win, haven't you? So Nikolai maybe needs to be a little bit louder come the final, but yeah, they sail the boat superbly, slick, consistent, and they're doing a brilliant job here to set themselves up for another final.
And while the points might not matter, going into a final with 40 points is definitely a confidence boost you need when you're going up against Nathan Outteridge and Tom Slingsby.
Here we go, real match race manoeuvre going here. Slingsby trying to push the Kiwis off the course. New Zealand can't manoeuvre. If they do manoeuvre, they need to be certain of getting ahead of the Australians. Now they can. They've got relief from the boundary. Tom Slingsby's got to let them go. They've got room on that boundary. Oh, it's a tight moment. Slingsby pushing it hard here. He's going to ask the question of the umpires. But I think that they should have had protection from the boundary on New Zealand there. Well, we've got a bit of industrial language coming off the Australian boat. Apologies for that. Frustration pushing in there.
On the final leg of race number 5, France shows their true colors as they make the turn and head to the finale. It will be the French getting the win here in race number 5, but this could be a little too late as their case to make it in the event final is going to come up just a little bit short. The French win race 5 in Sydney. Canada with a nice bounce back after having mechanical issues yesterday. It looks like they're going to hold on for second place, and the USA will come in with their best finish of the weekend, finishing in 3rd.
Nice finish for the US crew there. Yep. Good confidence booster, and what a tough weekend for the Canucks. I mean, they've had a really tough day yesterday, tough first race today, but that's more of what we're used to seeing.
We might get a
And a better performance here by the USA team taking 3rd. They've really struggled this weekend to be consistent around the course and get through all their maneuvers, but some solid improvements there.
And you see Spain come through. Denmark will get 4th. Emirates Great Britain will get 5th. The Spanish, as Emily pointed out, Stevie, they needed to win that race and get some help. They were up there for a while, but they just couldn't stay up front, and they'll finish in 6th place.
Yeah, nearly, but not enough. But to be fair, those top 3 teams, as we see here, New Zealand coming across the line, they have been the class, and they are the top 3 teams, probably, I'd say, now on the leaderboard for the season. So they are consistently the top performers, and in these kind of, well, what can only be described as perfect sailing conditions, really, on Sydney Harbour. Tom Slingsby was doing a pretty good job of telling us how good Sydney Harbour is. You can tell he owns a property alongside it. Sound a bit like a real estate agent.
And with Australia getting 8th there, that does put them through to the final with the Kiwis and the Danish.
So Germany comes through in 9th, Switzerland in 10th. Pre-race penalties cost them as we get set for the event final here in Sydney. So 5 fleet races are now complete, and the event final has been set. It will be Denmark, New Zealand, and Australia. And coming up just short will be the French, just missing out, but they sailed perfectly on that 5th and final race. If they could have just performed a little bit better in race number 4, Stevie, I think it would have been a different situation. As we take a look at the standings after the 5 fleet races, Rockwell, Denmark, and Nikolai Sested get the 40 points. They are in. 37 points for Nathan Outteridge as he steps on board for Peter Burling in 2nd, and Tom Slingsby on home waters defends. They are into the final yet again after missing the last one, only the first time they did not make the final in its season number 4. So it's Denmark, New Zealand, and Australia for one race, winner take all. France misses out by just 2 points. And we go on board with Quentin Delapierre. Always happy to visit with you, Quentin. Again, you guys are consistent. You were there at the very end, but you came up short on points. Take us through that last race. What was the difference between race 5 and race 4?
What was the difference? For sure, the start was way better, and I did an enforced error on the race 5 with the unlock board on the starboard port type.
So it's those details, Quentin. You know you can win the races. You must be starting to feel frustrated with finishing 4th, but also happy to find that consistency, and you're really moving up the overall leaderboard now.
Yeah, moving up, but I truly think that this team can do way better, and it's, as you said, there's a lot of frustration because we can win races by miles, we did unforced error or unlucky stuff sometimes.
So, Quentin, you turn your attention now to Christchurch, New Zealand, and I got to think you're hoping for big wins again and an opportunity to get yourself into that final.
Thank you, Stevie.
Quentin, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it, and we will see you in Christchurch next month. Well, disappointing for the French, Stevie. They come up short just 2 points. We're talking about 1.2 points. But really, you look at race number 4, and he talks about that unforced error. Had they moved up 2 positions, finished in 7th or 6th in race 4, they would be in the final.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda, Todd. It's been said a few times before. And yeah, it's the details, isn't it? It's not easy out there. If it was easy, we'd all be doing it. I'd be out there, you'd be out there, we'd be having a lovely time in Sydney. It's not easy. These are the best sailors in the world. You get punished for any mistake. And unfortunately for the French, there's just been a couple too many in the last few events.
So the event final is set at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix in Sydney. It will be Australia, New Zealand, and Denmark.
And it was all on in that last start, as all the teams were much closer to the line. The Spanish and German teams tried the last-minute start again. Didn't quite work out as well, but look at the French at the line, just at the gun, with pace.
Well, it was a real slingshot start there by the French. They were aggressive with Phil Robertson. Phil Robertson's not someone that's unused to being aggressive on that Canadian boat as well. And we just see how powerful leading at the mark is, and that I think is going to be the story of the final. Who can hit Mark 1 first? Because once you get out in front and start making your own decisions, as France are here, you just get to be able to sail the boat faster. You avoid this kind of congestion. Great move by Phil Robertson, aggressive. He's entitled to room inside. Spain have to keep clear. And well, we've talked about Canada and Spain a few times this year, haven't we? And that was nothing new. Well, we might well be talking about New Zealand against Australia. There's going to be tight moments around this course, but it's all for me going to be about hitting that last 10 seconds and leading at Mark 1.
As Stevie says, that start is all important and it gets you out in front. And here it is in the numbers. The French and the Canadians led. They had plenty of space to get full speed. Hence, 55 kilometers an hour average speed for France. And both the French and Canadians managed to foil for 100% of the time. While further down the pack, in the middle of all the chaos, they're a lot slower. They're having to do more maneuvers, 13 maneuvers for the New Zealand team compared to 9 for the French. It just makes such a big difference having that space to play and have room to do what you want.
The numbers certainly do not lie as we get ready for the event final here in beautiful Sydney Harbour in New South Wales. Fans getting themselves into position, enjoying the glorious sunshine and absolute perfect racing conditions down under.
Hey everyone, I'm back, and what a fantastic second race of the day that was. The French had a spectacular start and they managed to foil all throughout the race course, and the rich just got richer. They extended their lead and no one was able to touch them. I'm sure they're a bit disappointed to not make the finals, especially because this time last year, their team actually won this event with a clean slate. They got bullets all across the board on every race. So I'm sure they're a bit sad, but obviously it's a great way for them to finish their event here in Sydney. We're just about to go into our final race of the day, where we have 3 boats: Australia, Denmark, and New Zealand. This is honestly what I predicted, who I predicted to make the finals. The Australians, they're the hometown heroes. They're the ones that everyone was rooting for, and they obviously have the most hours here in their hometown sailing and the most hours on the F50 itself. The Kiwis, although they have a new driver on board with Nathan Outteridge, Nathan is a very experienced driver in this league because he did drive for the Japanese boat season 1 and on. So although he's new, he does have a lot of experience, and in a venue like this, experience pays. The Danish, we were just hooked up to their boat and they all looked super happy to make this final. They're all getting ready, getting their boat ready and getting themselves ready for this final race, but they have stayed consistent all throughout this season. They've gotten 2s, 2nds, and 3rds, but they've never won. So I'm sure they have a whole lot of people who are rooting for them to get their first win ever in SailGP. I know I am. I think I really want to see Denmark take this win. The wind has stayed the same throughout today. It's around 12 knots and easy foiling all throughout the race course. So I'm super excited to watch this last race, and let's see who takes home the win here at the Australia Sail Grand Prix.
Carbon machines driven by the world's best. Yes, powered by nature, powered by nature. We are SailGP.
It doesn't get much better than this in Sydney Harbour in New South Wales. Lachlan Murdoch has brought his boat to watch the world's best sailors compete in this perfect setting in an amazing Coliseum-style venue. Well, they put themselves into position as all the super yachts get just on the outskirts of the course, and there it is, the course here for one more race. It'll be the event final. Competing will be New Zealand, Australia, and Denmark, and this really is a water sports paradise. Give yourself a shot at wing foiling if you ever get the opportunity. Maybe Stevie Morrison can coach you.
We came down to do a little wing foiling session. We actually had a legend here. We had Ami, who was Mr. Armstrong. So to me, I was a little bit starstruck to get to meet the man who's created these foils.
Just sent out 10 rigs of gear for the SailGP sailors. They were out there doing a little kind of warm-up race for them. I mean, beautiful day on the harbour here in Sydney. And yeah, we set them up with a bunch of wing gear, and it's just fun for them. But for the Inspire program here at SailGP, they get kids down, they sail the Wasp, they sail the wing gears, and they get to mix and mingle with the world's best sailors. It's such an awesome program, and we're just stoked to be part of it. So yeah, it's just a fantastic way to get involved in the sailing, community. And there's a massive number of, sailors who want to get into foiling. Winging is the cheapest and easiest way to do it. So the first steps to understand the concept for kids, winging is so great. And we've got, as you can see, truckloads of gear. The kids have been, out here giving it a go, and perfect.
Slightly different, good to try a little bit different foils. You have so much time sailing that it's trying to carve out between the time you're training, the time you're racing, the time to actually go out and wing. For me, I haven't spent that many days. Whether you're ripping around an F50 or going out and turning right and down to Hobart, the Great Race, it's a pretty amazing place to sail.
Sydney, 24, SailGP. You're not here, you're nowhere.
That looks like a lot of fun. Well, the next generation of the world's best sailors took to the course here in Sydney with Wasp Racing Program taking to the harbor. And it's all part of SailGP's Inspire program on full display.
Here on Sydney Harbour alongside the F50s, Inspire Racing is back. As part of the Inspire program, we have 19 young sailors from all across Australia racing in Wasps and putting their foiling skills to the test. The conditions couldn't be better for some fast and furious slalom racing in front of the fans on Genesis Island. The next generation is stacked with talent, with a pool of national and world champions, all with dreams of taking their sailing to the next level. Taking the win here in Sydney for the second year in a row was Louis Tilley.
Wow, and the sailors had an incredible time. Great conditions out on the water as we see these super slow-mo shots of these high-performance racing craft. And well, it's been a brilliant, tight racing. It went to the wire. And in fact, to take that victory in front of home fans was spectacular. He got it done well. He was pretty happy with the job he did. Second year in a row, the celebration was good. Perhaps a little room for improvement on that, but everything else was picture perfect.
So the final is set. On the left, you've got Australia. In the middle, you've got Denmark. And on the right, you've got New Zealand. A lot of great stories here as Australia is back into the final after missing the last one. Denmark has been extremely consistent. They get their driver back, the great Dane Nikolai Sested. And on the right, New Zealand missing their main driver in Peter Burling. But Nathan Outteridge happy to step on board. So we are set for an absolute, as they say down here, an absolute cracker with under 7.5 minutes to go. So in the final, some familiar faces, Stevie Morrison, and some very talented drivers. And we got to start with Tom Slingsby. He's done a little bit of everything.
He's done it all, and he's, of course, the most successful driver in SailGP history, and he loves these finals, but he's not starting well today. Can he turn things around in this little break? I imagine Ben Durham, the Australian coach, is going to have a big part to play in that. But for me, it's all about where Tom Slingsby gets to Mark 1. If he gets to Mark 1 first, it's probably the last the other fleet are going to have seen of him.
So Tom Slingsby back in the final after missing the last one here on home waters, and we now go on board with the Australians. Tom putting his boat into position. Tom, welcome back to the final. Little added pressure developing, or defending home waters, I should say, here in Australia.
Yeah, there's plenty of pressure on, but yeah, we just got to focus on ourselves. If we get a good start, we'll be in the match. But yeah, we've had 2 bad starts today, so we've got to really try to get this one.
Kyle, I don't know if you can hear us there, but how are the conditions for the setup? Are you feeling like this Australian boat's fast enough to win it? Not sure you got your microphone on, Kyle.
Good. I think
I can hear.
Yeah, sorry.
Go again. On. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we've the speed's been good. We've been getting off the start line 30 seconds late and managing to work back into the race. So I think if we can get off the line cleanly, I think we've got the speed to sail away, hopefully.
And last question, Tom, it's a tough one, but as a 3-time reigning defending champions, is this the race in Season 4 where you get the win?
Look, I'm not going to say we're going to smoke it, but I'd love to smoke them. Yeah, look, it would be unbelievable to win here in front of our home fans, so we're going to do our very best.
All right, appreciate the time, Tom. Wish you the best of luck as we get ready to go to the final. It will be Nathan Outteridge standing in for Pete Burling. And again, Steve, we talk about experience. Nathan Outteridge, he's obviously known as the Wind Whisperer. He's got a few medals on his CV as well.
Well, he's got plenty of medals, hasn't he? Yeah, 2 Olympic medals, so many world champions. I don't know where he manages to keep all the trophies, but it's SailGP finals. He's been there, he's done it before. And let's talk about the New Zealand crew as well. He's come in as driver, but that's some crew to have a new driver come in. Big set of shoes to fill, but he's well supported, and that crew is on form. They're 2 in a row, they're used to winning. They're going to want to make it 3 in a row. And well, again, Nathan can deliver that. He's done a good job coming in this weekend and should only be getting better.
Well, we talk about the pressure on the shoulders of Tom Slingsby developing and defending the waters here in Australia. For an Aussie to step on board a Kiwi boat, Nathan Outteridge, these guys are used to winning. I got to wonder, does Pete Burling tell you, you break it, you buy it?
I haven't heard from Pete today, but I'm sure he told me to send it, so looking forward to the race, guys.
Yeah, well, Nathan, Pete's been texting me, and he says that it's all about the start, and it should be easy if you lead at Mark 1. The last thing I'd ask, though, is you've got a big friends with Tom Slingsby, but is there a little bit of extra hunger to make sure the Australians that wins here today is you?
That'd be nice, wouldn't it, Stevie? We'd love to do that, and I'd love to get a win for Pete, so looking forward to getting to this one.
Nathan, appreciate the time. We will let you get about your business as we come up on 3:30 to go before the event final between Denmark, Australia, and New Zealand. And maybe the most consistent driver throughout this weekend, the Great Dane. Nikolai Sejested, Stevie, doesn't have as many medals and world championships, but this guy is really coming to his own, doing quite a great job.
Well, during race 5, you talked about how we haven't really talked about him, and they are just so consistent. They're getting the job done. They're making the finals. They keep saying it's all about San Fran, but for me, Sejested needs to get a win on the board to get that confidence up.
And just a few short moments ago, Lisa Darmanin catching up with a Great Dane, Nikolai Sejested.
Well, congratulations, Nikolai. Great way to return after an event off, making the final at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, it's obviously good to be back. I missed it. It's hard to watch from home, but no, we're sailing pretty well today. I think it's all credit to the team sailing good boat handling, but let's see. I'm pretty sure Australia and New Zealand got something in the pocket for us now.
Well, they looked pretty aggressive in that last race, getting into a bit of a match race. Maybe that will play in your favour.
Yeah, we wouldn't mind that, actually, if they're keen for that, but let's see. I think they're going to stick to themselves and just let the boat speed do the talking. I think actually all 3 of us are pretty happy to let the boat speed do the talking right now in these conditions.
And obviously it changes when you go into a 3-boat final. Do you think there'll still be opportunities for overtaking, or is it all in that start once again?
No, there will be opportunities. It's pretty shifty out here and a lot of ups and downs in the breeze. It just depends how you get off the line a lot if you're in the controlling position. Yeah, let's see how much risk they want to take, the other guys. I think we're pretty keen for some risk.
And obviously we've had a lot of light winds recently, but does this feel pretty nice to sail in?
Yeah, this is super good. It's been a long time since we were really just being able to push the boat around like we like it, and it's definitely something that suits us well. So now we're happy with these conditions.
Well, you're the king of consistency, but I'm sure it'd be nice to actually win an event.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be bad, would it? But it's all about San Fran. But now for sure, we're going to push for a win here. We're not going to play the easy road. Let's see what it's. I think it's anyone's game out of these 3 teams right now. I think anyone can win that final.
Well, enjoy the racing and good luck, Nikolai.
Thanks, Lisa.
All right, so Emily, with 1:20 to go now before the event final, what did you glean off of those interviews? Are we looking at a match race between Outteridge and Slingsby, and the Great Dane's going to slide in there and take the win?
No, I think we're going to have a 3-way battle. It's easy to sell the Dane short because he doesn't come from the same Olympic background as these two, but he has heaps of experience. Both him and Tom Johnson have 2 laps of the planet under their belt. And I'll tell you what, it's not easy driving in the Southern Ocean, so I think Slingsby and Outteridge have their hands full dealing with him as well.
All right, final 50 seconds of preparation. Stevie, what's being talked about on the boat, and they've already made up their strategy of where they're going to want to be?
Totally different game now. There's a lot more space out here on the start line. We can already see the boats a lot further apart. I like the fact that Tom Slingsby was the last boat back and he's leading the fleet here. The rest of the day he's been behind the boats. He's been the one trying to find an opportunity, whereas now he's in control. But how's this battle going to work out? It is aggressive out here. They all saying they're close to the top of the line. That means advantage Outteridge and New Zealand for me here. But it's all about hitting that red line. Down towards the bottom end of our screen is where our data tells us is the favourite place to start, and it's all about acceleration. Denmark look like they're going to be trapped out. They're going to miss the start here. Slingsby slut the door on him at the top, but it's all about the acceleration. Australia are going to be so. Denmark are slow. Who's going to be on time? Oh, I think New Zealand are over early as well. Oh, what a start. What a mistake by all of the crews. What a mistake there. Australia early, New Zealand early. Denmark will lead at Mark 1. Oh, a huge error there. Now, how did Denmark play this? They're going to want to make sure they get to Mark 1 at top speed. No rush for Sehested here. No rush. Get the boat sailing fast and now send it down towards Mark 1 hard. It's going to be advantage Sehested when we get to Mark 1. He needs to get past New Zealand before New Zealand are clear to go. Australia are clear. They're out behind now. New Zealand are clear. We're up and racing with 3 boats as they come into Mark 1.
At mark number 1, it is the Great Dane and Rockwell, Denmark that take the lead. Pre-start penalties issued to the Kiwis and the Aussies.
Oh, they said they were hungry for a bit of risk. All 3 of them had way too much risk for breakfast on that start line, that is for sure. But now, advantage Sehested. Perfect first manoeuvre. He'll be lined up for this bottom gate, and it's all about the decision. Do you turn left or do you turn right at gate number 2?
There is no room for error out there. All 3 teams doing over 60 kilometers an hour, but these maneuvers are crucial. Look how close these teams are.
Full 7 legs here, the event final at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix in Sydney Harbour, and Denmark is gifted the lead at mark number 1. Now, can there be some overtaking, or can the Great Dane run away from the Kiwis and the Aussies?
Well, Denmark have got the first choice, and they're going to save a manoeuvre by going straight here. New Zealand and Australia are probably going to split away right. It's advantage for Australia. This is a tricky situation for New Zealand now. They're going to be following the Aussies. And, well, Denmark, expect them to head back towards the other 2 boats fairly soon. But it's advantage Denmark. That's a big lead at the bottom gate. And traditionally, that left turn has done pretty well here as New Zealand already come back towards this side of the course. And all the boats are trying to find their own clear wind.
It's a good moment here for the Danish. The breeze is slightly lighter on the top half of the screen, but only just.
Well, our ladder lines here, Todd, are showing actually a lead change and advantage Australia now. When they turn the boat here and head back across towards Denmark, the right of way is with the Danish, but it appears to be a gain early on the leg for the Aussies. But will it play out that way? Denmark's looked pretty fast there. Raz pushing the ride height really hard on board that Danish boat. They are ahead, but it's only very marginal, and there's plenty of race left here.
Leg 3 of 7, Denmark out in front as we go down on the water. Lisa Darmanin in your your unbiased opinion, whose position do you like the most?
I do like where Denmark is headed. That has traditionally been the right way to go. But, you know, there's so much going on here, boat-on-boat situations. New Zealand and Australia are in a battle here, but I think this is going to favour Denmark.
I think what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a few mistakes actually out there. There's definitely no one sailing the boat perfectly cleanly just yet. There's a nice lead for Sehested here. No surprise to say the Aussies aren't going away. Right of way is with Australia here. If it's tight, Sehested needs to be confident he's ahead. Catch her down there. She's just coming up. She was watching the Australian boat to make sure that all's clear, and they are clear. So as we head up this leg, it's going to stay tight for the Australians right now. Stay in the match. Keep breathing down the neck of that Danish crew. Denmark have never won a final. They're going to feel that pressure, and the Aussies are going to keep plying it.
And at the moment, the Danish team do have the highest average speed, 51.1 kilometers an hour average, but that's only 1 km an hour faster than the Australians behind them.
Denmark are heading towards less wind up there. That water, look how glassy it looks up there compared to where Australia are. I think Slingsby's in better wind, and he's going to be on the inside coming into the gate at the top here. We know there's only going to be meters in it, but I feel like Denmark have put a lot of risk on themselves at the moment.
Maybe we can tack inside them, can't we? Go have a look.
You can, Tom. You can tack inside. It's going to be tight here. Tom's looking to set up for the left turn. The left turn's been favoured here. Watch for the Aussies to sling inside, and it's Slingsby. He's pushing it hard. He's got to manoeuvre out the Danish way here. That's really close. Maybe too close. Oh, that was really tight. What judgment by Slingsby. It's clear. No penalty there from the Australians. They judged that to perfection. What a move.
So Australia looking for their first win in Season 4. Will it come on home waters? It's Australia, Denmark, and New Zealand as they make their way through gate number 3.
The Danish just looked a little bit wobbly down there. It's really close. Now they're locked in. Now they're the hunter. Maybe a position Sehested's happier with here. But as we get towards the boundary here, Denmark, if they can get themselves inside, they might be able to force the Aussies to move first. And they do. Slingsby has to jibe away. He's turning the boat away from Denmark first. And Denmark are pushing as wide as possible on the racetrack. They want to try and make the next gate with no more manoeuvres.
So it's down to the bottom of the course, back up around Genesis Island, then halfway back down, and then it'll be the sprint to the finish and the title.
Yeah, and right now, where Slingsby's positioned himself, the wind's coming from the top left-hand corner of our screen, and Slingsby's going to slowly press the disturbed wind down onto the Danish, and if he can just move forward maybe 3 or 4 more meters, he'll start to really affect the breeze getting to the Danish.
This was just a moment ago. This was the mark where Chief Umpire Craig Mitchell did not penalize the Australians.
And they were comfy there. You can see there was probably a couple of meters in it. It was tight, but well, it should be tight, shouldn't it? It's supposed to be tight, it's supposed to be close, and Slingsby saw an opportunity and he bit their hand off for it. Look at that judgment on board the boat. As we see it, bottom right-hand corner of our screen, it's the Australians turning up to the upwind leg.
And we'll see if that turns out to be the move of the match. It's the Danes and the Australians splitting the course here. We'll see what Nathan Outteridge and the Kiwis decide to do.
Look at that, 0 seconds in it at gate 4 as we're on the final upwind leg of the race. This will be decisive. Who's found the most wind at the bottom of the course?
Now we do have a flip-flop here from the previous bottom gate, with now the Danish going the left-hand side of the course, which did pay for the Australians on the previous.
Rockwell, Denmark, currently sitting in second place on the water. Australia out in front. Remember, this all started after pre-start penalties were issued to Australia and New Zealand, and the great Dane Nikolai Sehested took advantage of it. Now he's in for the fight of his life as he goes head-to-head with Tom Slingsby.
Big mistake there. They turned too close to that red and white marker, and they had to do a slow manoeuvre. They're some 15 kilometres slower out of that, and look at that 100-metre loss in the blink of an eye. Unforced error. That's going to be costly for the Danish, and that could well hand the victory here to the hometown hero, Tom Slingsby. Just so much less pressure on the Aussies now. It was tight on that upwind leg before. There was nothing in, but look at the fans there. Plenty of the locals wanting that, and right now Denmark, well, they're now fighting to hold on to second from New Zealand. One mistake and you get absolutely hammered for it.
Is there time for Denmark and New Zealand to catch the ruse, Stevie, or is this going to be a situation where they're going to have to rely on a Tom Slingsby mistake?
It's absolutely that. This is now it's only if the Australians make a mistake that they lose this from here. They've got total control. We know to the left-hand side of our screen there's better wind.
I wonder if we have to go back.
Yeah, there you go. Carl Langford wants to watch the boats behind. Slingsby's happy to split. Decision, slight disagreement there on board the Australian boat. But there you go. New Zealand starts to follow Australia. And what are Denmark going to do?
And turning.
So New Zealand makes the turn. Denmark now makes the turn as they all head to this last gate here at the top of the course. Lisa Darmanin, what are you seeing? What do you think is going to happen here in the final portions of this race?
I think it's quite tricky decision for Australia because they are going into lighter pressure compared to their competitors, but this means that they just do one turn and that they can head to that mark and they got one more dive to the finish. So it was really balancing pressure maneuvers, but compared to Denmark on the last lap, they've managed to have a really nice smooth ride through that light patch and stay on the foil. So I think they will have the commanding lead at the top here.
Look at this, here comes Denmark.
It's really tight, right of way with Australia, but if Denmark can get close to that circle, Sehested might have the opportunity to do exactly what Tom Slingsby did to him. Is Denmark going to try and sling it inside? No, he's not. He deems Australia to be too far ahead. There's going to be a split, but big advantage to the Australians as Nikolai Sehested chooses to follow. He yields. Oh, it's so tight though, Todd, here. Any mistake now, this is a one-mistake race. If Australia misses the next manoeuvre.
I'm crossing. Yeah, my wheel.
So was it checkmate for the Australians with one more to go? It'll be the Mark 6, and they'll make the sprint for the finish line.
And we just got to make sure they don't go inside us.
Trying to protect that inside line.
Just got to make sure they keep the speed in. They've got to judge the line to this final turning mark. As we see there, Mark 6, they've got to make sure they can do that. Will Sehested try and dive inside? I don't think Australia are going to make a mistake here. There you go, no, perfect from them. Carl Langford's happy with it, and he's putting that disturbed wind back onto Denmark. I don't see any passing lane from here, but what a comeback by Rockwool Denmark.
So now the sprint is on for the finish line in the title at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, and it's Australia by a full boat length. They have finished in second, third, second, third, second, and seventh. But here on home waters, Tom Slingsby works his magic. Hocus pocus, Australia takes the win in Sydney. And the party begins on Genesis Island. Denmark finishes in second. New Zealand will take third.
Never in doubt, never in doubt. Well, that was a messy old start. What a race we had there. There was a lot of tension in that pre-start, a lot of mistakes during the race. But when it counts, Tom Slingsby and those Australians have got it done.
So it's Australia now that gets to celebrate at their home regatta, the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney. And for the first time in season 4, it is the Australians that get the overall victory.
Look at that, that means a lot.
What a final race, and it did come down to the final leg. Australia does get the win. Denmark finishes in second. The Kiwis will take some top points as well as they make it into the event final, as we now go on board with New Zealand and their driver, Nathan Outteridge. Nathan, you're back in the event final again. Take us through that start. What happened between you and the Australians, and in your opinion, was that the turning point?
Yeah, it was obviously not the start we were wanting there. We kind of got ourselves into a great spot and then just pulled the trigger slightly too early. And honestly, we didn't realise the Aussies were over at the time, but we had them on toast and should have luffed them, and we had to bear away to avoid them. And then obviously we had to let the Denmark team through, and yeah, it was pretty tough after that. We just kept fighting, trying to find some options, but yeah, unfortunately it wasn't to be today.
No, and it was a pretty hard one. I don't, Blair, have you got your headset on the water there at the moment? Obviously getting Nathan to come in and join the crew, it's a big ask for a new driver to come in and join you, but how happy is this New Zealand crew looking ahead to a home event next up?
Well, as we just said, it's good overall points for the team for the season. And, you know, Pete's going to have to come back and show that he's better than me. So we're looking forward to getting back to Christchurch in a couple of weeks. And yeah, I'm sure Pete's going to be fired up to be back on the boat. And, you know, it was a pleasure for me this weekend to sail with this team. They're such a good group of people. And Blair kept me honest all day and all yesterday. And, you know, I thank them for that opportunity. And hopefully I'll be back driving a boat in the future.
Yeah, we look forward to Nathan, and it's great to have you back in there in the winner's circle. Nathan Outteridge and New Zealand doing a great job in third place and making the event final. And as they said, Stevie, it was a great chance for them to move up the ladder, but they don't really do any damage because they finished right behind Australia, so they will take some top points and stay in second place overall. Oh, what a race. Take a breath, and let's take a look back at the event final here in Sydney.
And let's look at that chaos of a start. So it was pretty clear early out from about 30 seconds that the Australians were going to try and take out the Danish and stop them from starting, leaving heaps of space for the Kiwis. But their timing was just a little bit too off. A hair over the line was a big deal for the Kiwis and the Australians, who then had to get behind the Danish, which almost set the Danish up for a brilliant race.
Yeah, well, it's pretty rare that you see the Rolex best time start being 1.3 seconds after the gun for the Danish there, but that's because the other two boats were that little bit too early there. And, well, as we saw, lead at Mark 1 should really get the deal done. And for Denmark, they made every move quite good, but here, aggressive from Tom Slingsby. He probably put it in the umpire's hands. He pushed the rules to the absolute limit there. I think he was clean. Most importantly, the umpires thought he was clean. That accuracy of manoeuvre was the race-winning moment right there. It was only a metre or so in it. No huge mistake by Sehested, but you only need to make a very small one. Open the door for Slingsby. He's happy to walk straight through it, especially when he's on home turf.
What a beautiful day here in Sydney Harbour as we bring things to a conclusion.
And looking at the numbers, we can see just how close it was. Australia with the shortest distance, the Danish with the most fly time, and the Kiwis with the highest average speed, and all identical manoeuvres. But at the end of the day, it came down to who could sail the least amount of distance around that course, and that was the Aussies.
Identical maneuvers across the board for all three teams as we go down on board to the runner-up squad. It's Rockwool, Denmark, Nikolai Sehested. Nikolai, straight away, congratulations. You guys are in the final. You pick up valuable points to move up, and as you said in our previous interview, it's all about San Francisco and getting into that grand final. But take us back to gate number 3. Was that the moment of the race when Australia got on the inside and there was no penalty?
Julius? Yeah, I think so. There was probably a big decider there. We were pretty sure that there was a penalty, but obviously the umpire saw it differently. But you know, it was a fun race. It was tight. It was just neck and neck the whole race with Australia. So that was pretty good fun, but obviously frustrating that we didn't get in the end.
Well, you said you were pretty hungry for a bit of risk in the start. It seemed like everyone was very, very hungry for risk in the start. How did you find that one?
Yeah, I thought we were hungry, but then I saw them being even earlier to leeward of us, and then it turned into damage control instead of who's not going to be early here. And yeah, I don't know, everyone was pushing pretty hard. I was surprised to see. I thought we were going to be the first one coming back to the line, but we ended up being the last one back to the line. That surprised me a bit.
Nikolai, I appreciate your time. Congratulations on the 9 points that go into your total, and we'll see you next month in Christchurch. So let's take a look at the event points now. This is the 8th event of 13, and it is Australia that gets the 10 points. Rockwool, Denmark gets 9, and New Zealand holds on with the 8 points. France just on the outside with 7. What a great day of racing. Let's go down on the water. Lisa Darmanin with the champions.
Well, congratulations, Tom. It took a while, but now you got the monkey off the back of the win on the board.
Yeah, no, we're so happy to win. It's our first win of the season, and we've been so close so many times, but it almost makes this sweeter to win here in Sydney, Australia, in front of our family and friends. It doesn't get any better.
And Tash, it's the first home win for you, but it was high pressure. Tell us what was going through your head.
Yeah, I'm really stoked to finally have won one at home with the team, but yeah, it was definitely really tricky and hard with less days on the boat this event, but yeah, it was really awesome and nice when we had less boats on the course, definitely.
Well, Tom, you said you wanted to have a good start, but everyone had a bad one, so it turned out okay for you.
Yeah, I know, it worked out good. 2 boats over and 1 boat with a penalty behind the line. I was like, okay, we might have an OCS, but at least we're good to get going in a good position. Yeah, no, I was convinced that was going to be a really bad one, like bad start in the final. You don't usually come back, but the team just sailed so well. I got great information, what marks were favoured, what the other teams were doing, and we were able to set up a bit differently and overtake the Danish, and then they almost got us back, but we managed to hold on.
Well, you put on a great show for everyone. Enjoy the celebrations and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for watching.
So congratulations to the Australian team as they take home the victory here at event number 8 of 13 in season 4, the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix, Sydney, beautiful Sydney Harbour in New South Wales. And the celebration will get underway in just a moment time. But wow, Stevie, you just can't say enough about Tom Slingsby. We talked about consistency. They usually have 1 bad race in the first 5, and then they come back strong in that final.
Yeah, and Tom, you know, he pushed the limits there, didn't he? As Nikolai alluded to, it was a tight decision with the umpires. The umpires were happy, it was clear. But it's a big moment for this Australian crew. It's meant a lot to them to win just an event this season, and to do it on home water, well, that's absolutely huge.
Well, Emily, they looked good. They sailed well, and when the time was right, they crunched the numbers, and Australia gets it done.
Yeah, it's taken them a while, but they have gotten there, and what a brilliant way to win. Such a great final race to watch.
So let's take a look at the standings here in season 4 now with 8 events complete. It is Australia. They have pushed their lead up to 8 points. New Zealand is sitting there in 2nd place. Nikolai Sested holding on to 3rd with 52 as they move up. Spain now in 4th. France in 5th. Emirates GBR really a tough sail down here for them. They're in 6th. And the USA drops down to 7th place. And it's Canada, Germany, and Switzerland. Presentation time now as Martin Shepard, the national chairman of KPMG, steps on board. He will present the trophy, and Stevie, and then the bubbly will flow.
Well, they've done this before, but they've not done it for a while, so we'll be judging their technique for sure. But there you go. Great to have their hands on the wheel. Well done to the Australians.
And we are looking forward to the next event. It is relatively short travel across the Tasman Sea over to New Zealand, where the Kiwis will host things. It'll be the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix in Christchurch. That's coming up on March 23rd and 24th. An absolute beautiful setting. Pete Burling will be back, and the Kiwis will be looking for a victory. And for the first time in SailGP history,
the 1 second to go.
just get it back. Such a rich racing history in New Zealand as the Aussies celebrate here in Sydney Harbour, and then they'll get back to work looking to back this one up here for event number 9 in season 4 as we make our way over to the ITM New Zealand Sail Grand Prix Christchurch. So on behalf of Stevie Morrison, Emily Nagel, and Lisa Darmanin, I'm Todd Harris. Once again, the Aussies reign supreme in Sydney Harbour at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix. Welcome to Sydney Harbour. Day 2 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix has arrived.
Real fast. The prize for Nathan Outteridge.
Picking up their first win. It's Germany.
Oh, what a mistake by all of the crews. That's really close.
Australia takes the win in Sydney.